And good morning. It is a Tuesday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. I'm Glenn. He's Griffin. Great to be with you. A lot to do. More Ravens conversation today. James Palmer now with Underdog as well as Bleacher Report. He's going to. Is he Underdog? He's Underdog, right? Yeah, Underdog and Bleacher Report. Because Jay Gruden is also with Underdog. I guess we're big. We're just underdogs today. Former Washington coach Jay Gruden is going to join us a little bit later on. Get his thoughts on what he saw between Baltimore and Washington on Sunday and the Ravens moving forward. It's Tuesday. On Tuesdays, we preview Waiver-Wire Wednesday with Press Box's Joe Serpico. All coming up on the program today. Today's show brought to you by... this one will be brought to you by Live Casino and Hotel. What's going on at Live Casino and Hotel, Griffin?
Every time that Baltimore or Washington's football team score a touchdown during home games this season, Live Rewards members will be receiving $7 in free slot play. You have to have your Live Rewards card inserted into the slot machine and be actively playing in order to receive your prize. But once they score a touchdown, home games for Baltimore or Washington, $7 in free slot play for Live Rewards members. At Roto Mills, must be 21. Please play responsibly. For help visit mdgamblinghelp.org or call 1-800-GAMBLER.
All right, a couple of things today. One, of all the football games I've ever seen, that was by far the most recent. Yeesh.
We got a Hail Mary in there.
Yeah, okay. That totally made it a watchable football game.
I did not get 40 points out of James Cook.
No, came up just a bit short.
No, I didn't.
Now Ray Davis apparently is deciding he wants to be a thing, which is great. Super helpful for fantasy football owners when you get to the middle of the season, all of a sudden everybody's gone running back by committee, except for the Ravens, which is nice. Yuck. I did go 3-1, though, in fantasy this week. I only lost one, so, I can't complain about too much.
2-2.
Yeah, well, some of us are just better.
You think so?
Some of us are just better coaches.
No.
We inspire our team more.
No.
Our speeches are better. Our preparation is better. That's just the way that it goes sometimes. So I saw a tweet last night that said something like, NFL refs are the MVP of yet another what would be great primetime game. And I said, what game are you watching? Like, what would be great about this game?
If there are no whistles.
Oh, okay. Then it would just be bad football.
Then we just have more scoring.
But bad football.
Well, I mean, is it bad
Terrible football.
If it's entertaining, is
it was awful. It was a bad football game.
That one interception was impressive, jumping over Mike Williams. And
it was impressive in the ball was underthrown. The receiver fell down.
The Hail Mary
and then after the two things that happened, then yes, was it Johnson, I think, did make a heck of a play in order to catch the ball. It was bad football. There is no the people that are still like, I'm kind of still scared of the Jets. Nope.
Well, at least the Yankees lost. So.
No, yeah, that didn't happen either. Bad football. And look, everybody always likes to complain about whenever there's a game that has a bunch of flags, it's always on the officials. Like, why is it never on the players? This is of all of the things. And I don't know if we put together what my hit list would be of sports talk radio topics.
Battle of the Beltways.
Yeah, well, that was certainly high on the list this week. Why is it always the ref's fault there are so many penalties that are committed in a football game? Like, at some point, are they just supposed to say, the hell with it, there is no holding? I'm always flummoxed by this. Like, the idea of the refs getting in the way. I think the guy that covers the Jets for ESPN, his name is Rich Cimini, tweeted, the officials have ruined this game. What was there to ruin?
When you got Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen on the field.
What about the teams that ruined the game? Now, again, that doesn't mean I don't disagree with some of the calls. Like, for example, the roughing the passer on third down that kept the Jets on the field. What is that? Like, if that is the rule, and there certainly seemed to be some confusion about it, if that is the rule, then the rule needs to be reconsidered. Like, there's just nothing there. The extra act that they put in there, like, definitely seemed to be Epineza trying to go for the football. Like, so That's nonsense. The other one that I didn't like, boy, I thought Troy Aikman was on last night. Man, Troy Aikman he's turned into Jim Palmer at this point. Like, he has no patience for this BS. He knew it was a bad football game. He knew, like, he was all over it last night. But then the other one was the would-be fumble, the ball that it appears that Aaron Rodgers wasn't trying to throw and just dropped. And we all saw the same thing, and they have this gaslighting official like, well, no, the arm it was coming forward. And, like, no, but then it stopped. It stopped coming forward and was just dangling there. And again, whatever the rule is, and we can assume that the official knows better, but I'm not really sure.
Oh, so you didn't get to – did you watch Thursday Night Football last week?
I watched some of it.
So did you see the part where it was like punt return and he like tried to fair catch it? A defender, I think Seattle was trying to fair catch, and one of the blockers blocked a San Francisco guy.
Oh yeah, mm-hmm.
yeah, and it like kind of like threw him off balance, and the ball tipped his fingers. It clearly tipped his fingers, and they like reviewed it for a really long time, and they were like, yeah, it didn't tip his fingers.
Even though you could see that it tipped his fingers?
And then so they brought in, I forgot, is it Terry McAuley? No,
I don't know who does those.
I don't know.
There's a million of these guys now.
But he was like, yeah, so they didn't have the same angles we did. So that's why they couldn't overturn it.
That's bad. Oh, that's bad. That's really, really bad, man. That's brutal. Yeah, I thought Troy Aikman was on last night. Like, this is nonsense. That's a fumble. If that's not a fumble, what are we doing here? What is the point of football if we can't say Aaron Rodgers fumbled that ball? He was not trying to throw the ball anymore. He fumbled it. But we can't say that for whatever reason. We have to pretend like there's some nonsense rule that allows that to be an incomplete pass when it is quite clearly not an incomplete pass. But I digress, as my friend Bob Haney might say. Bad football game. But not the fault of the officials that the game was so bad. The fault of the players that the game was very bad.
Well, and this thing, they had to fire their coach.
And that's a great point.
Yeah.
And this thing, like, and what did the Bills go through?
Well, James Cook didn't play. They didn't know that until right before the game started. Threw everyone off.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
They didn't commit nearly as many penalties the week before, so it probably is the officials' fault.
That's a great point.
Like all of a sudden they all forgot the rules. All the players forgot all the rules.
Yeah.
And we're just gonna cheat every play.
This is what we're going with. Like we're committing to this. We're committing to this being the thing.
I prefer less flags. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, then commit less penalties. It's the damnedest thing. It's the thing it's again on the brainless things that we do. Complaining about attendance without ever thinking about it, like that's very high on the list. But whining about officiating, like the officials are just supposed to say, these teams are bad, they have to commit penalties, so we just stop throwing flags. We just let them go out there and commit all the penalties because they're not good at football. It's an extraordinary take. And we never think about it critically. We just want to say there's too many flags. Or the flags are ruining the football game. Stop throwing the flags. We don't think about what that means. Like, are they warranted? Which the overwhelming majority of them last night were warranted. Like, you get frustrated because you see a big play, and then you look back and you see an offensive lineman, like, grabbing the dude in the chokehold. And they're like, well, I guess we kind of had to call holding there. Yes! You have to. It's what allowed for that play to occur. It's bizarre to me, man. Like, I'm sorry the teams are bad at football, and I wish that we had a better football game to watch. We didn't. We were stuck with what we were stuck with. And they are so hell-bent. This was one of those weeks where the NFL is so hell-bent about shoving the New York market down your throat that you got 2 New York primetime games.
Sweet.
And there's going to be more. And it's a reminder they're bad football teams.
How much longer are the Jets going to be bad?
Why?
Davante Adams.
Oh, is this official?
This is official. Just now. He is a
New
York Jet.
That's not great news. Because we have 2 pre-recorded interviews this morning that both discuss Davante Adams. Yeah. Not so great. Not so great. I don't think that Davante Adams can solve that. I don't. Now, it's scratch him off the Ravens list, obviously. There's no longer any reason to talk about it. So glad we pre-recorded 2 interviews. Yikes. Hi, Glenn Clark here. Sometimes this happens. There was no reason to think that this morning would be the point at which Davante Adams would be dealt. So we pre-recorded interviews with both James Palmer and with Jay Gruden. And the conversation comes up in both of those interviews. Now, it's a bigger conversation about what's the best thing for the Ravens to do and whether they should be aggressive, but we definitely talked about Davante Adams in both conversations. So just fair warning. We'll warn you again when we get there. That's the reality of the circumstance. Yeah, Ian Rappaport, it will be for a conditional 3rd-round pick that can go to a 2nd-round pick. That's according to Adam Schefter. That seems like something that I would have been fine with the Ravens doing. Again, this is a complicated conversation, and what are they trying to do? The other topic that came up before we just learned about the Davante Adams deal was Hassan Reddick apparently has been given the go-ahead to try to find a trade. It's interesting, right? Like, that's certainly interesting. You would presume, based on his complete lack of interest in playing in New York, that he would still be looking for a deal for whoever trades for him. But I would also say, is there a reason why the Ravens wouldn't have interest in giving Hassan Reddick a deal? I mean, somebody would say they have so much numbers-wise in the edge rush department that, like, don't they have to try to see if those guys can work out? Well, we've been doing this for a little while. And it's not as if I think Odafe Owe is having a bad season. I don't. I just don't think he's going to be that guy in terms of getting the quarterback on the ground specifically with regularity. I think he's a good football player, but they need a sack artist. And Kyle Van Noy had a hell of a 3 weeks. An unbelievable 3 weeks. And on the whole, Kyle Van Noy has had a good season. Kyle Van Noy is most likely to be a double-digit sack guy this year. But is he a wrecker? And while I would be torn if you said, hey, don't even look at the offensive side of the ball. Only look at the defensive side of the ball. Would you be more desirous of something up front or in the back end? It's a complicated conversation, right? Because Marcus Williams is making a bunch of money. And I don't know that they're just going to say Marcus Williams is out of the equation. Because that's the one area that you would look at and say, I think you have a glaring weakness there. And is it just over? Like, is Marcus Williams just never going to be a good football player again? I don't know. Could that change at some point in the middle of this? Is there something going on? It's very complicated. I don't know what to make of the Marcus Williams thing. But, like, that would be the one guy. If you said, hey, you needed to replace one guy on the football field, who would you most inclined to replace? Well, right now, the answer would be Marcus Williams. But are the Ravens willing to do that, given how much they have invested in Marcus Williams? I don't know. The Browns won't replace the worst quarterback in the history of football because they have a boatload invested in it. I don't know. So could you improve? And it's a conversation that comes up a lot. Can you make the secondary better just by forcing the ball out more quickly? I'm interested in Hassan Reddick. I was interested in Davante Adams. Scratch that off the list. I'm interested in Hassan Reddick. How could I not be? Good football player that's available. And seemingly would be helpful for the Baltimore Ravens. Seemingly. Can't promise it. And we got to see, I mean, you also got to see exactly where Hassan Reddick is. It's something that came up when we had this conversation a couple weeks ago. Like, is he in
every down shape?
Right. Like, is he ready to go?
Be a third down guy. Like, that's it.
I don't know. But I'd like to find that out. I'd like to poke around at least and see if I can't get an answer about where Hassan Reddick is. And, yeah, I'm interested. Yes, correct. And according to a few different folks this morning, he has been given permission. Diana Rossini reporting the Jets have given Hassan Reddick and his reps a short window to seek a trade per sources. His new representation, Drew Rosenhaus, has been reaching out to teams over the last 12 hours to gauge interest. So there you go. And maybe that was because they knew that they were trading for Davante Adams, and so they just wanted to move on from this and no longer have to think about it. I don't know. But Davante Adams is going to New York to not save the Jets.
Or?
Yeah. I mean,
Yes.
I know that there is peril in completely writing off Aaron Rodgers and suggesting that Aaron Rodgers is washed. Man, he doesn't look right at all. Like, it really does look like we're at a point where you're watching a 40-year-old that isn't going to be Tom Brady, that isn't going to – and that's the thing. I think that we reimagined what 40-year-old players were capable of because of what we saw Tom Brady do. But the list of guys that were playing like that at that age is Tom Brady. We remember what it looked like for Peyton Manning and Ben Roethlisberger and Drew Brees in the final years of their careers. They could not get the ball downfield the same way. The Saints didn't even try with Drew Brees. They didn't even attempt to throw the ball downfield when he reached that age. The Broncos, again, it's the funniest thing of all time because they won the Super Bowl anyway, couldn't throw the ball. The list of guys that could continue to throw the ball downfield the way that it takes to win in the NFL, unless you have, again, that Broncos defense, is Tom Brady at that age. That's the list. It didn't create a whole new world of every quarterback can play until they're 45. It created a world of one. And Aaron Rodgers, away from being a giant weirdo, has been such an athletic marvel that I think we wanted to believe. Certainly Jets fans have wanted to believe it. The number of Jets fans that were like, I'd rather Aaron Rodgers than Lamar Jackson. And I just kept saying, why? Like, do you hear what you're saying? Do you hear yourself? I'd rather a quarterback that at best has 1 to 2 years left than a guy in the prime of his career. It speaks to the fear that people continue to have of black/mobile quarterbacks. He doesn't look the way I want my quarterback to look, so I just kind of rather not do that. Which is, it's unreal because it really does feel like we should be at the point where this is the only way you'd want your quarterback to look. Imagine still wanting your quarterback to be the other type of quarterback. Imagine having watched this for a few years and still thinking to yourself, you know what, I'd rather have one of those pocket-only quarterbacks. But I just don't believe in my heart that there's anything that Davante Adams can do about the fact that Aaron Rodgers just doesn't look like he can do this anymore. They were throwing the ball purposely underneath a lot.
Did you see that Hail Mary?
Yeah, he still did hump that ball down there. There was the one. Maybe that's just what they should call. Like, they should just on every play call nothing but anytime they're on the other – if you're on the other side of the 50, just call a play that the ball goes the end zone.
I mean, Davante Adams was making Gardner Minshew look like a competent quarterback. And I think – I don't think this is going to hurt them.
That's the difference. I don't think it's going to hurt them, but I don't think it can save them.
So what are they, 2-4 right now?
Yeah.
So.
I think their problems run a lot deeper than adding one wide receiver. I think their problems are they're just a mediocre football team. Like, which, by the way, it's kind of what I thought of them coming into the year. Like, I'm not really surprised by this. There was nothing outstanding about that team. Like, Garrett Wilson's a nice player, but not Like, we were enamored from Garrett Wilson as from a fantasy standpoint because Aaron Rodgers was the quarterback, not because Garrett Wilson is some freak of nature. Breece Hall's talented for sure. But what else was there to be overly excited about with the New York Jets? But this does probably guarantee that they will not be flexing out of Jets games. So going to be stuck with that for a while. Enjoy. NFL continues to be committed to that New York market, man. Got to get that out there. Got to get that big. Everybody wants to see it, man. Everybody's asking for it. Yikes. All right, so yeah, Davante Adams. So, all right, well, that'll be relevant during some of these conversations we're having this morning, and I'll give you the reminder. In fact, let's just go ahead. When we come back in, we'll talk to James Palmer, which I will tell you is pre-recorded. And Davante Adams comes up. It's just what it is. That's the nature of the beast. We'll do that next as we continue along. It's a Tuesday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. Brace yourselves for an unparalleled in-person betting experience at the Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbook and Bars in Canton and Towson. Experience the thrill of live betting with Baltimore's only state-of-the-art Vegas viewing TV experience. Choose between our on-site tellers or the convenience of our self-bet kiosks to place your bets. Gather your betting buddies and head over to the Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbooks today. Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbooks in Towson and Canton. The ultimate destination for game day excitement, great food, and live in-person betting. Must be 21. Please play responsibly. Gambling problem? Go to mdgamblinghelp.org.
Hey Baltimore, it's number 10, Arthur Millette, and I'm hoping you'll slot us in all season long for the Arthur Millette Show. We will be traveling around the region all season, giving you the chance to get to know me and my teammates. There will be some football talk and a lot more. You can watch this show live on Pressbox's Facebook and YouTube pages and listen every Friday night on 105.7 The Fan. Find out more at pressboxonline.com/Millette. The Arthur Millette Show, the only show in town that's a work of art.
The next Arthur Millette Show is Wednesday, October 23rd at the Gourmet inside the shops at Kenilworth. It's brought to you by 1-800-GAMBLER and Easy Pass.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
The ultimate fan experience awaits you at Sports and Social Maryland. See how we're raising the sports bar with our massive 100-foot media wall featuring 40 HD TVs and a 47-foot big screen. Bet on your favorite teams and this year's biggest events at the FanDuel Sportsbook while enjoying your favorite beers and cocktails, plus our delicious takes on bar food classics. Visit Sports and Social at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland at Arundel Mills. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
The drug scene in Maryland is changing. Fentanyl and xylazine are being added to street drugs, and you may not even know it. Xylazine is not even intended for humans, and fentanyl is an opioid 50 times stronger than heroin, and contributed to over 80% of overdose deaths in our state. Anyone who uses drugs, even occasionally, is at risk of overdose. To learn more, visit stopoverdose.maryland.gov or call or text 988.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Driving in Maryland? Did you know an Easy Pass from DriveEasyMD.com can save you time and money? Of course you did, because you are a thrifty driver. An antenna reads your Easy Pass transponder and automatically deducts the toll from your Easy Pass account. There, you just saved money with Easy Pass, all without slowing or receiving a notice in the mail. Well done, thrifty driver, well done. Get your Easy Pass at DriveEasyMD.com.
Contrary to what some people believe, I actually like this guy when he sleeps. Glenn Clark, talking sports.
All right, we continue along on a Tuesday edition of the program. Don't forget, Project Game Day returns this coming Monday night following Ravens-Bucks. Late night edition of Project Game Day. You'll want to hang out with us. PressBoxOnline.com/Game Day. Looking forward to that. It'll be myself, Rita, Femi, our cast of characters. See if Old Man KZ is willing to stay up for this one. Stecca, the whole crew. Join us Monday night, Project Game Day. It is all brought to you by BetYard AI, as well as Easy Pass, the Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbooks in Towson and Canton, and HelpMyGamblingProblem.org. Well, as I said, we had to do this a bit earlier because of his schedule, and unfortunately that means that there was some news that happened since. But a lot of great stuff. He was in Baltimore this weekend. James Palmer from Underdog and Bleacher Report with us here on GCR. Joined now here on GCR by a man who was in Baltimore to check out the Ravens win over the Commanders on Sunday. He is with Underdog Fantasy. He is with Bleacher Report. He is James Palmer, and he is with us now here on GCR. James, it's Glenn in Baltimore. It's great to chat with you, man. Thank you so much for taking a couple of minutes for us.
Oh, for sure. You know, I picked this game, Glenn. Like, I can go to any game I want each week.
I wanted to talk to you about
this.
Where
do you want to go?
Okay, so
and I said, I got to be at this one.
I did not know. All right, let's pull the curtain back for people that don't realize that. I acknowledge that I pre-tape interviews. It's not like anybody's going to be surprised by this. I didn't realize that was what the gig allowed now. That you every week get to pick where you want to be, which I think is tremendous. And what was it about? Was it the Lamar Jaden thing? Was it the geography thing? Like, what made this be the game that you said, I want to be there on Sunday?
I think it's all that. I think the Ravens are, in my opinion, shaping into form as being a Super Bowl front runner, in my opinion. I wanted that confirmed with my own eyes. I wanted to see Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry play together with my own eyes. I really, I'll be honest, wanted to see Jaden Daniels. I've talked to enough people in Washington about what's going on with him, and I wanted to see it. And the geography part, to me, let's just say this game should happen every year. Like, I know, like, the way alignment works. I know the way the conferences work. But the atmosphere was great. The number of, just jerseys from both sides and the geography of it, it made a great atmosphere that I wish we weren't waiting, every 4 years for this type of game?
I mentioned this briefly yesterday, but my buddy Dave Preston from WTOP, who's been covering football for a long time, suggested that that's what the 17th game should be every year. That, like, the 17th game should be a regional rivalry game. And I get that it doesn't clean up perfectly for everyone. Like, you could do Eagles-Steelers every year, and there would be something there. Yeah. You could do Jets-Giants.
Cowboys-Texans.
Right. Yeah. In some places, it cleans up really nicely. There's a logical – it's not perfect for everyone. But the thought makes an amount of sense, right? That, like, you're doing this 17th game every year. Why not try to make this, like, create some sort of rivalry thing that doesn't exist outside of divisional play in the NFL?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, just being there for that atmosphere, and I went to a big-time school. Like, I went to Ohio State. Yeah. I know what college rivalries are like. I hate that team up north.
Yep.
And it's fun, and it's great for both sides. And it's actually, and I'll be honest, we've lost a few to that team up north recently. But we went on a streak where we were in total dominance for a decade.
Yep.
When both teams are really good, it's even more fun. I know it's more stressful for the fans, but think about this with Jaden Daniels now. And I mean, he is the truth, no lie. I mean, it is unbelievable what he's done so quickly. I mean, to have these two quarterbacks that you could essentially see square off every year, the level of play always makes these rivalry things more fun. And you could see that in the direction that Washington's headed.
So what stood out to me, I am starting to get, like, last year Houston vibes from Washington. There is no debate about the quarterback, right? Like, that throw he made to Terry McLaurin in the end zone is chef's kiss. And that's a guy who, like, if you had a warranted criticism, it would be he doesn't throw the ball to his left. Well, like, the best throw that we made him make all day happened to be to his left. He is unbelievably legitimate. Will he be Lamar Jackson? I have no idea, because that's a two-time MVP that we're talking about who still might be ascending somehow in his football career, which is a bonkers thing to say. But I think that yesterday was a reminder of they've got the quarterback check. They're just not quite at the same level as a football team as the Baltimore Ravens are. and we'll see what they do next, the ownership, the leadership of that organization, but they've got the foundation figured out, and that is by far the most important thing.
It really is. And you mentioned ownership, and that I think should be talked about, I think, a little bit more. Josh Harris and this group own other franchises. This isn't new ownership group, right? Maybe new ownership group to the NFL, but when you own a basketball team, you own a hockey team, you know how to own a franchise. You know the things that you can do to put things in the right place. Everybody wants to find the quarterback, and everybody wants to make sure that that puts them in the right direction. I liked your comparison to Houston, in all honesty, because that happened way quicker than we thought.
Yep.
And talk about two organizations in Houston and in Washington that were not even just in disarray on the field over the last couple of years, but behind the scenes. Well, what was going on in the building, right? What was happening in the facility? It was just not a good place to be. It was a toxic environment in both buildings. And how quickly did Houston do it? In 1 year, essentially, with D'Amico Ryans and C.J. Stroud. And now you're seeing a grown-up, as a lot of people refer, in Dan Quinn, that's now in the building to run things, and you find Jaden Daniels. And so it is a good comp because they're doing things really, really quickly. They're not where the Ravens are in terms of their roster. We know there's holes on that roster for sure. But they're the best team in their division right now. And I don't think there's an argument to be made. They're the best team in the NFC East.
Yeah,
and that happened very quickly. And they got a lot of room. Like, don't be surprised if they make a move before the trade deadline because they got some cap space. And if they're still on this trajectory and they're leading the division and that's, like, in their sights, I wouldn't be surprised if they try to improve this roster pretty quickly here with a move or two.
Makes a lot of sense. He's James Palmer. He's with us here on GCR. James, that's for them. Obviously, not our concern here in Baltimore. In Baltimore, life is good again after a weird. We say it was 2 weeks to start the season. It was really 1 week and one quarter against Dallas, right? Like, because the game against the Chiefs, you're going to lose a game every now and then. They lost by an inch, right? Like the game against the Chiefs. The Raiders thing,
a toe.
Yeah, a toe, exactly.
Yeah.
The Raiders thing was so disastrous that there were questions at that point, like, whoa, could this come apart? Well, they've responded obviously really well, and that's led with the thing that you brought up as part of the reason you wanted to be here. We all had this feeling during the offseason of, is it possible that Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry in one backfield just might be completely indefensible? And here we are 6 weeks in, and the answer does appear to be like there is no good answer for how you handle having both of these guys. What do teams possibly do when both guys are clicking?
Yeah, I don't think they know that yet. And that's scary for the rest of the league. I don't think teams know. I mean, I was in that Commanders locker room talking to some people post-game, and this was said to me by a coach, was like, it's not really fair that Derrick Henry landed with Lamar Jackson. Like, that is the perception around the league right now. And to put this in perspective, right, the Ravens right now are averaging 146 more rushing yards per game than their opponents. They're not averaging 146 yards rushing. They're averaging 146 yards per game more than their opponent. It's the biggest discrepancy the league has ever seen. You know, they're averaging over 205 and they're giving up 59. Like that is astounding. We've never seen a number like that in this league. And I thought they'd ease in with Derrick Henry. I mean, that was kind of part of, my thinking was, and I wasn't alone in this around the league of, John Harbaugh's going to say, you know what, you're here to wear teams down in late November, December, and January.
Yep.
We're going to, kind of limit some of your carries in the beginning of the season. We're going to kind of, ease you into this. We know you get better as the year goes, but still you're an older running back. Let's do this. I think that changed after 0-2.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, you know what? I think we got to get moving here. And it has been astounding what he's been able to do. And Lamar has played off of it brilliantly. I mean, you watch that game on Sunday, and I'm sitting there in the press box. Not as great as it used to be. Let's be honest. It was arguably the best press box.
There's no debate about that.
It was one of my favorites. And the last time I was in the stadium was for the AFC Championship game.
We don't like that. We don't talk about that one.
Yeah, but it was a new press box, but it also was a little more towards the end zone.
Yep.
So you're getting to see these alignments a little differently. And it's just like 7 in the box, 8 in the box, single high safety, 7 in the box, 8 in the box, single high safety. We have to play this way to stop Derrick Henry. And Zay Flowers just runs free, and Lamar throws for well over 300 yards again. And you're just seeing the bind that defenses are being put in because you can just go to the line of scrimmage and see how many guys are in the box and play off of it. And if they don't load the box, then you hand it off to Derrick Henry. He does what he does. And so it's been really, really impressive what they've done together. And I think it's also improved the entire passing game when teams have to worry about, Derrick Henry. And so it's been as good as it can get over the last couple of weeks. And I mean, there is an argument. Is this the best offense in football right now?
Statistically, it is that Patrick Mahomes is still breathing, and that's just the reality of the circumstances. And James, I feel like that's like going into the year before the little 0-2 hiccup. The singular question about this team was, can this finally be the team that gets over the Chiefs hump in the playoffs? That was the only thing. Mm-hmm. We were almost expecting the regular season to be boring, right? Like it was going to be a slog to get to the part that mattered. And then it got a little more adventurous. But now that things have settled down, I feel like we return to that question, which is, can this combination, if you can keep them healthy, because obviously it always starts there, if you can keep Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson healthy and clicking like this, can this be the type of unique combination that can beat a really good Chiefs defense and take down that group finally when the games matter in the postseason?
Yeah, I think that's what we're all waiting for. And I was hearing this buzz at the stadium that was essentially, I kind of wish we could play the Chiefs now.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that's kind of the sentiment around the Ravens. My understanding is, that game happens to open the season, and we don't really know exactly what we are as an offense.
The offensive line was not near. You can already see how much the O-line has grown together in the last 6 weeks. Like you give that unit that
100%.
Yep.
Yeah, and as well as defensively. Like let's talk about it. Like you got a guy who hasn't called plays on defense before. Like that's who's stepping in to run your defense. And this is week 1 against Patrick Mahomes. Like and I do think you got to go back and look at the way Mike started when he took over running that defense, and it wasn't phenomenal right out of the gate. And there were a lot of question marks for the first 6-7 games in his first year. And it takes a minute to really get that feel for your personnel and what you want to do. And yeah, I think there's a lot of people in Baltimore right now that are going, specifically in that organization, I wish we could play the Chiefs right now as opposed to the opener, because we're starting to figure out who we are. And that's what happens in this league. There's always so much turnover, right, with coordinators and coaches and personnel. And 80% of a roster usually in every single building is concerned they're not going to be back there the next year. Like that's how much turnover is in the league. And usually most teams go, okay, they break it into quarters, and the first 4 games are we figure out who we are. The next 4 games we drive home exactly that identity to our locker room, and the rest 8 games, it used to be 9 now, you go out there and you prove that. And I think the Ravens kind of now are in that spot going, this is who we are, we know who we are, we figured it out, and that's where we're at. And now we do think we have a formula that can beat Patrick Mahomes and company. It's not the same team that we thought Kansas City was going to have, obviously, with the injuries that they've had. We know the defense is really good, but at the same time, if you keep Patrick Mahomes off the field like they have the ability to do, it might be a different story.
I think that's what the calculus was they were doing, and we just have to learn that once we get inevitably to what feels like that is going to be, again, as long as everybody stays healthy, how this all plays out. Let me cover a couple things. Concerns, because you brought up the defense, and statistically it's still not great. And like some of that, you get heavier into like DVOA, and you get more like opponent neutral, and it's not that the pass defense is a bad group, and the run defense, to your point about the difference, the run defense has been outstanding. The pass defense hasn't been great. How much of that to you is a concern versus, no, that's about right with a new coordinator and playing the gauntlet of quarterbacks that you played to start the season, that will correct itself as the year goes on?
I think there's still some concern, obviously. You want to be as talented as possible. Like if they were going to make a move, I mentioned moves at the deadline. I think, everybody probably, with both teams that were playing yesterday, man, Davante Adams looked good with that roster. I think both teams would probably tell you, we might need somebody on the defensive side of the ball if we are going to make a move. I do think there is part of that. I think you lost, and I think this shouldn't go overlooked. But honestly, I don't think it should. You lost a really good secondary coach.
No question.
Like you lost a really good secondary coach. And then that happens. Like position coaches and their input around the league varies tremendously. I'll be honest. There are some that know the right guys and they always have a job. And then there are some, like the one that used to be in town, that are extremely valuable and unbelievable at their job with their group. And so I do think you got to overcome that. I think you got to figure out like how much Marlon Humphrey has and like how much, he's battling, but can he move like he used to? There's a lot of people around the league that think maybe not. You still have one of the most dynamic playmakers in the secondary in Kyle Hamilton that like every team in the league probably wishes they had that type of player. I do think there's growth that can happen on this side of the ball. Like I mentioned, I just think it's happened. Like I mentioned, the beginning of the season compared to now, I just think it's happened and you figured it out on offense a lot quicker than you have on the defensive side of the ball.
And obviously that turnover you mentioned, Denard Wilson, who they lost, and of course Mike McDonald. They brought in Dean Pease and they got more sets of eyes, and I think they're acknowledging.
I think that was smart.
Yeah, I mean, why? I think the question would be, given everything you lost, maybe just the experience was something that you needed a little bit more of, and I think that they're acknowledging that. You bring up the trade deadline, and I ask this more generically, like to the extent the Ravens are willing to be aggressive and make trades. Like the Roquan Smith thing was aggressive a couple years ago. That was a heavy price to pay for a player that was not, at that time signed long term. Now they were able to get that done, and for the most part, that's worked out. He hasn't been quite as good this year as he had been for the 2 years before that, but that's a very high bar. He had been outstanding. We've seen that. Do you feel like, given Derrick Henry's here, given everything they've been through in playoffs past leading up to this point, that maybe they do need to be even a little bit more aggressive to say, hey, this year kind of does need to matter maybe a little bit more than typically just being the Ravens who always say, well, we want to be good every year.
That's a great analogy. And I'm in the camp, and there's some people in the league that obviously believe this way, and there's plenty of GMs that don't want to take the big swing because there's fear in the big swing. But I agree with you, because you could look at two teams right now, and they played against each other. This is a perfect example, and I didn't even know you were going to ask this question. Two teams played against each other on Sunday, in the Detroit Lions and the Dallas Cowboys. The Detroit Lions are in an absolute, epic window for a Super Bowl run right now. So close last year, felt like they got screwed. They lose my point of this is they lose Aiden Hutchinson. Awful, just absolutely terrible. Arguably the best defensive player in football this year. They should be aggressive, right, to fill that need. Obviously, you're going to have to give up something, but if they want to go after, say, Max Crosby or Cam Jordan becomes available and the Saints are sellers, or, the Browns are sellers and they look at their pass rushers and, they should go after it because their window is as big as it maybe can get right now. The team that they were playing against in the Dallas Cowboys, that roster is in disarray right now. And it wasn't, 2-3 years ago, they were probably considered one of the better rosters in all of football. And you go, well, our window with Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb is going to be huge. Well, they're nowhere near that right now. And so it can happen in an instant to where that window shifts and your chances of a Super Bowl changes. And so if you're Baltimore right now, Derrick Henry's 30 years old. I don't think you have the longest window with this game-changing type of player that legitimately in your backfield is maybe the biggest threat to the MVP of your quarterback. That's astounding that they're playing that well.
Is that good?
So, go out and see if you can be aggressive. I really do think it's important. The Chiefs, right now, to my understanding, are kind of not sitting on their hands, but they're kind of seeing what's out there. But they don't want to be overly aggressive looking for a receiver and overpaying because they feel like they've drafted well. They feel like their Super Bowl window is really huge with Patrick Mahomes. But at the same time, if they don't and they come up short, maybe they'll be second-guessing it. So there is those couple schools of thought, but if you look around the league, like the examples I gave you with the Lions and the Cowboys, a window can change pretty quickly, and another team's in one right now where I would expect them to make a move because they know where they're at.
All right, let's make sure we get all the plugs in, right? The Underdog show, the Bleacher Report.
That's what everybody should like the show. We got an Underdog. It's me and former Baltimore Ravens.
He's a popular man around these parts. He is a very.
Is, man. How about when he was a band member the other week?
It was
Did
really
you
cool.
see that?
That was really cool. That was really.
I
really look. It's we talk about Steve Smith is a career Panther who had a cup of coffee here and yet is treated here like he was a Raven for 15 years. That's how beloved he is in Baltimore.
Well, that's Steve for you, and man, he knows ball. I mean, I don't know if people know that Steve is such a student of the game, and I don't know anybody personally, and I've been covering this league for 15 years, that knows the receiver position better and to evaluate talent there. So we have a blast, man. It's awesome. Yeah.
That's really cool. And then what else can we plug for you?
Oh, I don't know. We can. We're an insider for Bleacher Report, so we jump on there and we kind of talk about what's happening around the league every week on Wednesdays. I'll give you the goods about kind of my notebook from talking to people around the league and kind of figuring out what's kind of interesting storylines. We'll probably have some stuff Wednesday about the Ravens for sure and about the Commanders because that's where I was at. So I got some really good nuggets I'm saving for Wednesday about both those teams.
At James Palmer TV is where you follow him. James, really appreciate it, man. Thank you for doing this. Hopefully we see you back here in Baltimore before too long, and would love to chat again then.
If I pick my games, which I get to do, I think it's almost a certainty.
It's James Palmer with us here on GCR. And again, the question is much more generic. It wasn't dependent on Davante Adams because he's not going to be the only player dealt. He was the most the first prominent player that we knew was on the trade block this year, but there are going to be more. And I agree. Like, I am never the type in football that says you have to go all in. But it really does feel like, uniquely, the Ravens are in a position where this year should matter more than other years do. And that doesn't mean they needed to be in on it. Doesn't mean it had to be Adams specifically. And there are still cap ramifications of this. And one of the stories was that the Raiders were not interested in paying more of Davante Adams' salary in order to get a better draft pick. And as it turns out, they only got a third, a conditional second, if you will. So it's just more of a theory of this year should matter more than other years. In part because of your failures in the playoffs. Because that's who you are right now. That's in your blood. And you need to break that. And I know that's an esoteric type of thing. It can't be defined. Losing a playoff game last year doesn't really have anything to do with whether or not you'll win a playoff game this year. Except for the many people that will tell you that it actually does. That it does weigh on you. That it does become heavy. And improving your odds of breaking free from that would be significant. But it also gets tied in with exactly what James Palmer's just talking about. You have Derrick Henry right now. You signed him for 2 years. Given how he's playing, there's no reason to think he won't be here next year. But you never know. Trey Wingo brought that up yesterday. Like, it still seems like at some point, this is a running back past 30 that we're talking about. You just don't know. And Derrick Henry might prove to be a freak. He's already proven to be a freak, I guess. He might continue to prove that and defy everything. But sort of similar to what the Jets are doing, where they're like, well, we got Aaron Rodgers right now, and this ain't a long time. It ain't even a good time right now. But we know it's definitively not a long time. Let's give every chance that we can to making it a good time. If that means we got to fire the coach, we'll fire the coach. If that means we got to trade for it, we'll do anything we can to desperately allow it to be a good time, because we know it won't be a long time. Now, I don't know that Derrick Henry is as close to the end as Aaron Rodgers is. Aaron Rodgers really looks like he's close to the end. I don't know that. But if I'm the Ravens, I'm operating around the idea that while we've got Derrick Henry and while we know he's in the prime of what Derrick Henry is capable of being, we throw everything at it. That we can. Because, again, there are still limitations. It is still a salary-capped sport. And as much as we like to say the cap isn't real, like, in some ways it is. There is a limit to what you can do. And you do still need to have draft picks. You can't trade all of your draft picks, but you can trade some of them. And for the right return, and the Ravens would always say, for the right return, we'll do a lot of things. I think it's now, it's hard to measure this, but I'll go a little bit past the right return. It's a little bit more than just right player, right price for me. It's right player, right-ish player, right-ish price, right time. If there's a risk that's worth taking, this is the time where it's worth taking that risk. Because your identity, unfortunately, is of playoff failure. And while no player that you could add at the deadline is a guarantee to change that, as we remind, they're not even guaranteed to last the season. That's the reality of football. While no player is a guarantee to change that, stacking the odds as much as you possibly can to absorb, and it's why I'm still interested, even with Davante Adams off the market, I'd still be interested in other wide receivers for depth reasons. I don't know who else. I like Amari Cooper, but I just don't. I don't see that trade being made. I try to think of who else would even be out there that would be.
I mean, the Hopkins one makes a lot of sense.
It makes sense, again, acknowledging what you're getting. Acknowledging that you're not getting DeAndre Hopkins. You're getting a guy whose name is DeAndre Hopkins.
He's more or less what Odell Beckham was last year.
Hoping that he can be what Odell Beckham was last year. And
he
if
doesn't
nothing,
have a quarterback right now, so yeah.
I understand that. I just don't know. I don't know what DeAndre Hopkins is. I don't know. He's even older than Davante Adams, so it's tougher. I don't know at this point what DeAndre Hopkins is, but I'd still be interested just out of depth. And I get that you can say, well, somebody else can be depth. I'm not. It's where I'm not going to be reckless. I don't say these things to say I want to be reckless.
Jets probably want to get rid of Mike Williams.
I don't know how interested I'd be in Mike Williams, to be honest with you. I don't really know. I don't know that Mike Williams does anything for me, dog. I'm not sure. Is he actually older than Davante Adams? Maybe they're the same age.
Davante and
DeAndre Hopkins was born in June of 92. When was Davante Adams born? June of 92.
Davante Adams is 31. December of 92. So
he's older, but he's not. He's a few months older. But he is older. I was right. I did have that right. He is older than Davante Adams.
Man, and then you got Mike Evans, 31 as well, and he's better than
Mike Evans.
Everyone in the league.
Yeah, he's still a rock star, man. That's the guy that I truly believe will defy age. Like Mike Evans, I think Mike Evans might have 1,000 yards. I mean, in fairness, that was what Derek Mason was. Derek Mason defied age for a few years. Steve Smith defied age for a while. Mike Evans seems like he's going to be, but those guys weren't prototype receivers, right? Like Mike Evans, I think will continue to defy age as a prototype receiver, which is nuts. All right, what?
No.
Okay.
I didn't have anything.
Thought you were about to say something else. There was another trade or something like that.
No, I don't know.
Unique Ngakoue is going to be elevated to the 53-man roster by the Baltimore Ravens. That's not surprising, given that he's been helpful over the last couple of weeks. I believe Jeff Zrebeck said that there have been teams that started reaching out last week to try to poach him off the Ravens practice squad. So you presume that means the Ravens promised him, hey, don't, because we're going to put you on the team next week. And that was always the plan. You don't bring in a Unique Ngakoue with thinking that he's just going to linger on the practice squad all season. Like, that's not the point. The point is that you didn't have to make a roster move in order to sign him this way. That's the team starting to manipulate the new practice squad rules, that you do get a couple of elevations, so you don't have to put him on the active roster yet. But then after you get through those, you're going to need to put him on the active roster. So they were going to need to do that. We don't know yet what the corresponding move will be. There wasn't anything really injury-wise that came out of Sunday's game that I remember. I don't remember there being any concerns about there being a lingering injury.
No. Feels like we might be at the point, though, where, Lamar's going to have the stomach bug or something at some point, and that'll scare us all.
Oh, no, that has nothing to do with what they're going to do about that. They got to make a move to get somebody on the 53-man roster. Somebody has to come off the 53-man roster.
Yeah,
the question was whether or not an
an
injury would. Well, or they would have to put somebody on IR. That was why I brought up injuries.
Yeah, I know.
Not because I have anything concerned about Lamar and the stomach bug. Did a guest cancel or something? Because you're doing the bit that you do when
No.
But you make me nervous when you start doing this because you make me think
all right.
that you know something that I don't know.
No, I don't. Trust me, I don't know anything that you don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I know some people would say, oh, maybe it'll be Marcus Williams. It's not going to be Marcus Williams. Stop it. It's not going to be. The other question is whether or not there's someone they could do a wink, wink, nudge, nudge IR thing with. Maybe one of the young players who's not seeing the field. Sanusi Kane, somebody like that. I don't know what the plan will be to get somebody, or if they're an injury that we just don't know about. Yeah, so that'll be the interesting part. As the plan is to put Yannick Ngakoue, or they're going to put him on the 53-man roster today. All right, when we come back in, we will preview Waiver-Wire Wednesday. Is Calvert Hall's own Sean Tucker a thing? We'll ask Joe Serpico that next. It's Glenn Clark Radio.
The ultimate fan experience awaits you at Sports and Social Maryland. See how we're raising the sports bar with our massive 100-foot media wall featuring 40 HD TVs and a 47-foot big screen. Bet on your favorite teams and this year's biggest events at the FanDuel Sportsbook while enjoying your favorite beers and cocktails, plus our delicious takes on bar food classics. Visit Sports and Social at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland at Arundel Mills. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Driving in Maryland? Did you know an Easy Pass from DriveEasyMD.com can save you time and money? Of course you did, because you are a thrifty driver. An antenna reads your Easy Pass transponder and automatically deducts the toll from your Easy Pass account. Learn more at DriveEasyMD.com.
Pressbox's Project Game Day is the place to be after every game this season. Join Glenn Clark, Rita Hubbard, Super Bowl 35 champion Femi Adebayo, and our cast of regulars as they break down what happened, why it mattered, and what it means moving forward. You can watch the show at PressBoxOnline.com/gameday or Pressbox's Facebook and YouTube pages. Project Game Day is brought to you by the Green Turtle Sportsbook in Towson and Canton, Easy Pass, and HelpMyGamblingProblem.org. So join us for Project Game Day after every game day this football season at PressBoxOnline.com/game day.
Treat yourself and taste the Baltimore tradition that is the legendary Costas Inn. Hey, it's Stan the Fan Charles. For over 50 years, the Costas Inn has been a Baltimore original, dishing out their legendary fat, delicious, award-winning crab cakes and steamed crabs. It's crab season, so sit back and crack some crabs while watching the Birds pursue another divisional title on Costas's 15 TVs. On Monday night, the Costas Inn offers their half-pound jumbo lump crab cake with 2 sides for under $30. So head on down to the Costas Inn today at 4100 North Point Boulevard or visit them at CostasInn.com.
The votes were all counted, and the results are official. Royal Farms was named #1 for food in the USA Today 10 Best poll, receiving more votes than any other convenience store chain in America. The next time you want to get some good food fast, doesn't it make sense to go to Royal Farms? Voted best in the USA and home of world-famous chicken. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Brace yourselves for an unparalleled in-person betting experience at the Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbook and Bars in Canton and Towson. Experience the thrill of live betting with Baltimore's only state-of-the-art Vegas viewing TV experience. Choose between our on-site tellers or the convenience of our self-bet kiosks to place your bets. Gather your betting buddies and head over to the Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbooks today. Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbooks in Towson and Canton. The ultimate destination for game day excitement, great food, and live in-person betting. Must be 21. Please play responsibly. Gambling problem? Go to mdgamblinghelp.org.
Coming back in here with Glenn and the other guy, Garrett, whatever his name is. You know who they are.
All right, back in here on GCR as we continue along into the 11 a.m. hour of the program. County Sports Zone is the place where you turn to get everything you need to know about high school sports in the area, every score, every schedule, every news update, everything you want to know. CountySports.zone, proudly sponsored by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. I realize that if Davante Adams can make Aaron Rodgers look like Aaron Rodgers again, then I could end up regretting these words, but just for the record, truth be told, I prefer Davante Adams as a Jet than I would Davante Adams as a Chief, which again seemed unlikely trading within the division, or Davante Adams as a Bill.
What about a Steeler?
Yeah, that's an interesting one, right? Like, man, I don't want to say. I think I prefer Davante Adams as a Jet than I do as a Steeler. I think so. I still don't know that I would have feared the Steelers with Davante Adams because it just seems like they still have so much limitation offensively. But given how good their defense is, that the idea that Davante Adams could have just made them a little more competent offensively, I do think that Davante Adams as a Jet is less threatening than any of those three other locations would have been. And again, I acknowledge that one of them almost certainly was not going to happen because the Raiders were not going to trade Davante Adams within the division, I don't think. But, yeah, the Bills, I think, were a viable option. And every time you watch the Bills, you're reminded of how much, like, for 3 games we wanted to pretend like somehow it was addition by subtraction with the Bills and Stephon Diggs until the last 3 games have reminded us, no, it's the exact opposite of that. It was subtraction. They are not the same group without having a top wide receiver to throw the ball to. So much better that Davante Adams didn't go to Buffalo. All right, joining us now, he is, of course, our Press Box fantasy football analyst, and he's with us every Tuesday here on GCR. He's Joe Serpico. Joe, good morning, pal. How you doing?
Good morning, guys. I heard you just talking about Davante Adams. As a Davante Adams owner in another league, I am very much in the same boat as you. I'm not too crazy about him going to New York. I was more preferring him go to Buffalo.
Yeah, I think Buffalo would have been phenomenal. What does this mean for Davante Adams? What does it mean for Garrett Wilson owners? What does it mean for I can't imagine anybody sticking it out with Aaron Rodgers as their quarterback. Are you scrambling to try to get Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback now? Like, what are all of the fantasy implications of the Davante Adams trade?
Well, I think like I just said, it's not the ideal spot because there's just so many mouths to feed there. With Garrett Wilson still being there, we saw that they made a concerted effort to get him the ball last night. I've been putting in my article the past couple of weeks how, we want to add Alan Lazard to your fantasy teams with how he's been performing the past couple of weeks. And now we've got Adams into the picture. We have seen in the past that Rodgers is able to handle 3 wide receivers, but that was also, 5-10 years ago, too. So in regards to Rodgers, no, he's not somebody I'm rushing to go get just because now Davante Adams is there. If anybody takes the hit, and I heard you talking about it 2 seconds ago, was Mike Williams. I think Aaron Rodgers pretty much has had enough of him after all those drops last night and everything that happened there. I think that's pretty much what accelerated this trade today. And I think they're just going to give up on Mike Adams. And then, in regards to him coming to Baltimore, no thanks. I think it does do some significant damage to, obviously, Garrett Wilson. And then, in Adams' case, him being with a team now is much better than the situation we have been the past couple of weeks where, I guess we'll find out in the next couple of days whether he truly had a hammy injury or not.
The expectation would be he's going to start playing, and him playing is better than him not playing. That is for sure. I don't know. If you're a Davante Adams owner, it's a good day because he's at least going to be playing football. Like, I guess that's where you start with that. All right, let's get into Waiver-Wire Wednesday, Joe. I no love for the pride of Calvert Hall. You are not racing out to pick up Sean Tucker this week, really?
I think that was more of, he led all scorers in fantasy this weekend, but I think that was more a result of game flow. The Buccaneers really put a beating down on the Saints, and a microcosm of also Rachaad White being out. I don't know how extensive that's going to be. We might see White back this week. We've been kind of talking about it anyways the past couple of weeks where it seems like Bucky Irving was kind of seemingly transitioning to the starter anyways. So even when it comes back, I'm still anticipating White's going to get some playing time over Tucker. Now, if you're in a super, super, super deep league and you need somebody, maybe you add Sean Tucker, but I'm not spending any fab on him.
No, yeah, I'm certainly not going to spend any fab on it. I hear you. The funny part being, like, the folks down in Tampa Bay, and it'll be interesting because we'll obviously be talking to some Tampa Bay folks this week with the Ravens getting ready to head down there and play on Monday night. it seems like a lot of people in Tampa Bay are like, Sean Tucker seems like the most electric of this group of running backs and maybe has deserved more of a look over the course of the last couple of weeks.
Well, I think that's more, again, they haven't truly found their guy down there in Tampa Bay. So they're trying to just whoever kind of makes a move for them, they'll be the guy that's moving forward. Now, they didn't use a big draft pick on, let's face it, any of these three running backs that they've got there right now. They're all third round or later. I think White was a third round, if I remember correctly. But yeah, so it's, there's no real commitment to anyone. Whoever gets the hot hand is going to kind of take over with it. Could it be Tucker next week? Again, I'm still kind of tempering my expectations when you're going against the Ravens. I think, we've kind of seen the Ravens are going to put up points, so I think it's going to be more of a game where, especially with how the secondary has been kind of, I think you're going to be more worried about Chris Godwin and Mike Evans as opposed to anybody in the ground game. But, again, if you're truly desperate, you can grab one of those guys. But if I'm starting any of the three guys this weekend, it would still be Bucky Irving.
The one guy that the other guy that I didn't see on your list, as a Bijan Robinson owner, I don't love how many carries Tyler Algier got this week. Is that just a nature of the game, or is it more of a 50-50 situation? And is Algier someone that's worthy of picking up on the waiver wire?
Well, Algier I don't have listed because typically I believe he's rostered in more than 50% of leagues.
Really?
He seems to be he's one of those running. Well, we've seen it now, even with the past two years with Robinson in the fold. They're still getting him involved. Now it's not always the 50-50 split like we saw this past weekend. Again, I do think kind of the game plan kind of played into the factor for that one. But Bijan he's still the guy at the goal line. We saw he got the two goal line touchdowns this past weekend, and I believe he got all of the red zone carries as well. And it just seems like, they're mixing in Algier here and there. But, it seems like, this weekend was more 50-50, but I think what they really want to do is more, let's say, more 60-40, 65-35. But Algier's I think he is, of all the handcuffs, he is your premier handcuff. I would say that without a doubt, just because we see how much action he's getting even without Bijan out of action.
The situation in San Francisco, what's the story on Jordan Mason? You've got Isaac Guerendo at the top of your list.
Yeah, so we talked about him a couple of weeks ago. I said, if you got somebody you can stash away just in case of injury, that was my little lottery ticket, and here we are. So the thing being now, we just don't know how severe it is with Jordan Mason, the AC joint. He could be back this weekend, but then we also have the impending return of CMC, hopefully within the next week or two. So you always want to start somebody that's playing for the 49ers. So if you need a running back this weekend, yes, you absolutely pick up Guerendo and you start him as well. But if Mason's out there, then, it's kind of a wasted pick because, like I said, I think CMC is going to be back soon. But like I kind of noted in the article, now I would much rather have Guerendo than anything that's going on with the Denver running back situation or the Cleveland situation. I threw in Jacksonville there too. I think this weekend there'll be a little bit more clarity with it. Sounds like ETN might not be able to play, but even still, I'm not too thrilled about anything that's been going on with the Jaguars as a whole. So if you need somebody, I'm starting Guerendo over. There's actually quite a few running back situations that I'm probably starting him over just because you can always trust the 49ers ground game to put up points.
So what do you make of if there's no Etienne, is it Tank Bigsby, or how much of a factor is Dearness Johnson there?
I think Johnson will get a lot of the passing work, kind of similar to what they seem to be doing actually the past couple of weeks with ETN. It seems to be that Bigsby's been getting the early down work and ETN's been getting the third down / receiving work. So I think that still remains the same if ETN is out. I just think, to be honest, it probably gives more opportunities on the ground for Bigsby. But, they got that game this Sunday against the Colts, and I feel so bad for anybody in London. And that's what you're paying money to go see. Jaguars versus the Patriots.
Big game. How dare you? How dare you disrespect the big game that's going on in London? His press box is Joe Serpico. He's with us here on GCR. Joe, the reality is it sounds like a lot of what you're saying is these aren't guys that you're throwing a ton of money at fab-wise as much as, like, if you happen to be the owner of a certain guy, then maybe it's worth picking up. Like, all of these seem to be very complicated situations that we're talking about.
Yeah, so to be honest, this season has kind of been, other than, let's say, Jordan Mason, he's really been the only true free agent or waiver wire find that's made it's not like last year we had your Cooper Nakuas and your or Puka Nakua, excuse me,
Yeah,
and your
he's made him
Kylan
one guy.
Williams. And, we just kept finding random guys that were, this year just doesn't seem to be the case. When somebody gets hurt, it's just like a guy that, all right, we're plug and play for like the next couple of weeks. To be honest, my biggest pickup for this week of out of all the running backs is probably going to be Ty Chandler. And that's just because of the situation where Aaron Jones is banged up. They do play Sunday, but then they have a quick turnaround on Tuesday. So if you would have to think, if he's not playing on Sunday, strong possibility he's not going to play on Thursday as well. So at least you're getting 2 games out of him. You would think of Ty Chandler as opposed to Gary Endo. Like I said, Mason could be back this weekend, or he could be back the following weekend, and we could see CMC back even the weekend after that. So, for all those guys I kind of listed, Ty Chandler, because you potentially have the chance of him starting 2 games for you this week or the next, let's say, 10 days.
Let me ask more generically. The Nick Chubb, the expectation is that Nick Chubb is going to finally play this week. If you've been holding him, is it right into the lineup, or is it have you seen the Browns? Maybe you might have better options, and you wait to see what that looks like in his return.
Yeah, I think you wait at least 1 week just to kind of see how it kind of plays out. The injury to Jerome Ford might kind of give him a few more carries than was originally anticipated, but it's hard always to trust a guy in that first game back, especially with the significant injury that he had. And, yeah, you kind of said it, the Browns' offense as a whole is been very lackluster. So you really can, if you control the run game, you don't have to really worry about their passing game with Deshaun Watson back there. So I'm probably waiting a week, seeing how things play out. But I do think, after just 1 week, I think, let's say by next week, it's a full go for Chubb because they need something to somehow save that season or even save Stefanski's job out there.
What about if Cooper Kupp returns this week? Is it right back into the lineup, or is it let that play out for a week?
See, that's a different situation. He goes right into your starting lineup just because we've kind of seen the Rams, their passing game is really, really missing, whether it be Kupp or Nakua there. They just need some kind of alpha out there. And kind of we were talking about the preseason. I was really, really big on Kupp this year because I thought they were going to revolve the entire offense around him. And we've kind of seen how, the offense hasn't been the same without him. So, yeah, Kupp is somebody I'm instantly putting right back into my lineup just because he's going to get a boatload of targets right away.
Go ahead.
Do we start trusting Gabe Davis again now, or is he someone that you just want to keep trying to avoid?
It's hard to trust anybody with the Jaguars right now. To be honest, the only guy I think I might be trusting on the Jaguars is the guy who just came back this weekend was Evan Ingram. I had that monster game. The receiving group, though, it's just every week it just seems to be somebody else. 1 week it's Kirk. The next week it's Brian Thomas. The next week it's Gabe Davis. And we've been down this road with Gabe Davis for the past, 2-3 years now. He's the ultimate boomer bust. He'll have those games where he puts up the 15-20 spot, and then he'll have that game where he puts up 0.2 for you, too. So, yeah, we're navigating through bye weeks. There's only 2 teams on a bye this week. So, I'm really not going out of my way to add Gabe Davis unless you're truly desperate.
How about DeMario Douglas now that they got Drake May throwing the ball? Do you trust any Patriot pass catcher?
Yeah, so I was wanted to put May in there, but I was, again, one of those guys maybe I wanted to see another week to kind of see how it kind of played out. Can't complain with his first start, absolutely. I liked what I saw from Pop Douglas. They've been trying to get him the ball more. Seems like him and Jalen Polk have become the 2 guys that they're trying to get the ball to the most at receiver. And you have to be impressed with Drake May. If you're somebody like in our league, our crazy Superflex league, add Drake May because I think we're going to see him slowly progress. So what I've made a note of that got released today is, we saw Jaden Daniels make an impact right away. Took a couple games for Caleb Williams. Now he's a must-start for you, too. I think we need to see the same thing with Drake May, and then we might be talking about him in the same light soon to where, he's not going to be, let's say, QB1, but he'll be a solid QB2 for you to play. It's just, he doesn't really got a whole lot of weapons around him, but May does look like he has the talent, especially the little bit he's going to add on his wheels to be fantasy relevant.
So I'm in another league where it's just a standard quarterback league, but I don't have a quarterback. Would you start Drake May this week? Other options are Sam Darnold, Kirk Cousins, Stafford. Is Drake May a guy that you'd be willing to start at this point?
I started him over those names that you just mentioned there, especially what we've seen from the Cousins the past couple weeks. There was another name that you just said there first that I really liked. But no, I still have like May, like let's say somewhere between, he's still 18 through 21-ish. He's better than many situations that are out there. But again, I'm not starting him over the other guys you just mentioned there.
I want to ask about how much we have to respect the Minnesota defense at this point, right? Like if you're a Jared Goff owner, are you confident that the Lions are impervious to this? Or I mean, this Vikings defense, DVOA wise, is like twice as good as any other defense in the NFL. Do you have to consider whether or not you just sit even Jared Goff because he's going up against the Vikings defense?
Wasn't ready for this one. There's only been a handful of defenses that, like, when I see them come up, I'm like, okay, I try to, I don't want to say steer clear of, but, they give me worries. And one of them, to be really honest, is it's Denver, and that's just more because whoever Patrick Surtain teams to have, they seem to be locked down that week. That's really one of the few defenses that, like even this year, the Browns defense, which has been talked about as being this great defense the past like 3 to 4 years. They haven't been that this year. In fantasy purposes, I don't really let defenses really play a factor. Now, let's face it, like I just said, if we had some B-level receiver going against like Surtain I just mentioned there, then yeah, absolutely, I am probably putting him out. But like I'm not benching, Jared Goff coming off such a great game like that, and we've talked about it for weeks now how big I am on Goff. So I am not benching anybody for a particular defense, no matter how good they are. So, I mean, just based on last year, the Ravens defense was so good, but I was still starting people against the Ravens defense. My philosophy has always been, if they're going to do it, they're going to do it. Don't overthink the defenses, because that's sometimes that's when, it's tinkering your lineup and overthinking things. When you just play your guys, don't overthink it.
I tend to agree with that. All right, the one other name I guess we should have brought up because of what we saw last night is Ray Davis. I was able to hold him in one of my James Cook leagues, but I was not able to in 2 of the other James Cook leagues, and so I thankfully did not need him to save me last night. Like I was winning those leagues anyway. But what do you do there? Do you have to have Ray Davis this week if you're a James Cook owner?
If you're a James Cook owner, absolutely. I think that was, I'm not a James Cook owner, but I guess I'll have to ask you, how surprised were you that he was out? Because I just assumed he was going to play, to be really honest with you.
I was surprised.
I look, maybe part of it was I wasn't paying attention. That just might be it. But like I was caught completely off guard. I had no idea.
Same, I guess. Yeah, I guess that's what I'm saying. I was kind of caught off guard too. And then, as somebody who's always keeping an eye on these things, I was like, well, then yeah, you got to add Ray Davis. I don't expect this to be something moving forward because I thought again he was going to play last night. But if you're an owner, yeah, absolutely pick up Ray Davis. It's definitely, we saw last night, it's his job if James Cook is out of action. Ty Johnson will get all of the receiving stuff, but actually I think Ray Davis had that one big play down the field receiving as well. But yeah, Ray Davis is one of those handcuffs that, again, I keep putting it in that article. It's becoming part of that season as we get closer to, playoff. It's more important to have your what I call lottery ticket running backs like a Ray Davis or a Braylon Allen that say, even some of those receivers I put in the article today, they're guys that if you have injuries, but they're not really helping you, let's say in weeks 15, 16, 17, where it all matters. So I would much rather have a Ray Davis than, who did I put on there? Like a Lazard was one of those names I put on there, or even a Christian Watson. Like I would much rather have stash one of those guys away. Yeah, they have no impact for you right now, but they can be a lottery ticket for you when it matters in a couple of weeks.
All right. Anything else we need to be thinking about going into week 7?
We talked about it a little bit a couple of weeks ago, but the Dolphins backfield. Pay attention to that this week. If Achane, and it seems to be a thing this year where concussions are not a 1-week thing, especially with neighbors. It's been a little bit weird. So if we see Achane out again this week, make sure you're picking up Jalen Wright because it doesn't seem to matter, what they put back there. The Dolphins can always support 2 running backs. So if for some reason Achane is banged up, add Wright. Again, another lottery ticket for you.
All right. He is Joe Serpico. It's at Joe Serp on Twitter. That's how you follow him. You see all of his stuff every day at PressBoxOnline.com. Joe Serpico, always appreciate you, brother. We'll talk to you again next week.
Absolutely, guys. Take care.
That's Joe Serpico, PressBox fantasy football analyst. He joins us every Tuesday here on GCR. to preview Waiver-Wire Wednesday. And Joe Serpico is, as always, brought to you by Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. Griffin, what's going on at Live Casino and Hotel?
That's right. Every time this season that Baltimore or Washington's football team score a touchdown during their home games, Live Rewards members will be receiving $7 in free slot play. $7 in free slot play for every touchdown scored during home games for Baltimore, during Baltimore or Washington home games. Live Rewards members that have their card inserted correctly into the slot machine, any slot machine on the floor, have to be actively playing as well. But once that touchdown scores, $7 in free slot play. Adderall Mills must be 21. Please play responsibly. For help, visit mdgamblinghelp.org or call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Didn't really talk about the baseball at all. The Mets get off the Dodgers suddenly, they went from not giving up a run to giving up a ton of runs really quickly as you had the grand slam. And something about the Mets and grand slams, right? Like, what's going on there? They ultimately hold on, and the Mets even up that series 1 apiece, which is good because I got to be honest with you. I thought that was cruising. I feared we were in quick ALCS and NLCS. The Yankees and the Dodgers dispose of their opponents very quickly, and we move on. I feel bad saying that. Like, I honestly have more faith in the Guardians than I did have in the Mets. But, boy, the Guardians just looked like just totally flat last night. Utterly and completely flat. So I hope they wake up here in Game 2. And if they do, that's the nice thing is that, like, you get the series to shift. Like, all you got to do is steal one on the road and get the series to shift.
Like that, I mean, it has to be the hope because I was with you. I thought the Mets were just kind of like, that doesn't look like they made the trip to L.A. Did you see there was a snake in the Dodgers dugout yesterday?
I did not see that.
There was like a little garden snake in the Dodgers dugout. They thought it was going to be the rally snake.
It was not.
It was just a snake.
It was not, yeah. Although they did start the rally a few times. Like, that was kind of the crazy part. Like, there was a couple times where I said, oh, no. Like, oh, no. This could be bad. But that ultimately did not being the case as all good, man. All good. Vientos, what a postseason Vientos has had, including that grand slam yesterday for the Mets. So Game 2 in the ALCS is tonight as the Guardians will try to even up that series. And then the NLCS starts again tomorrow after they have the day off to switch coasts and head to New York. When we come back in, we're going to chat with Jay Gruden, former NFL coach, get his thoughts on what he saw from the Ravens on Sunday. That's on the way as we continue along here on a Tuesday edition of Glenn Clark Radio.
Experience the thrill of the Mars Maryland 5-Star at Fair Hill, presented by Brown Advisory, coming October 17th to the 20th. See the world's best equestrians compete in the sport of eventing, the ultimate test of horse and rider. Enjoy a weekend festival featuring locally sourced food at the Fresh Food Fest, a beer, wine, and spirits showcase, shopping, and fun for all ages. Check out the Maryland Corgi Cup, interactive kids corner, and more. It's the place to be in October. Visit maryland5star.us for tickets.
Treat yourself and taste the Baltimore tradition that is the legendary Costas Inn. Hey, it's Stan the Fan Charles. For over 50 years, the Costas Inn has been a Baltimore original, dishing out their legendary fat, delicious, award-winning crab cakes and steamed crabs. It's crab season, so sit back and crack some crabs while watching the Birds pursue another divisional title on Costas' 15 TVs. On Monday night, the Costas Inn offers their half-pound jumbo lump crab cake with 2 sides for under $30. So head on down to the Costas Inn today at 4100 North Point Boulevard or visit them at costasinn.com.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
The drug scene in Maryland is changing. Fentanyl and xylazine are being added to street drugs, and you may not even know it. Xylazine is not even intended for humans, and fentanyl is an opioid 50 times stronger than heroin and contributed to over 80% of overdose deaths in our state. Anyone who uses drugs, even occasionally, is at risk of overdose. To learn more, visit stopoverdose.maryland.gov or call or text 988.
The votes were all counted, and the results are official. Royal Farms was named #1 for food in the USA Today 10 Best poll, receiving more votes than any other convenience store chain in America. The next time you want to get some good food fast, doesn't it make sense to go to Royal Farms? Voted best in the USA and home of world-famous chicken. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
The latest edition of Pressbox is available now. On the cover, Bo Smolka profiles Ravens star safety Kyle Hamilton, detailing his path from growing up the son of a basketball player to choosing football, being overlooked in the draft, and turning into a defensive unicorn as a playmaking Swiss Army knife in the NFL. Also inside, meet college football players from all of the area's D1 programs and some of the area's college soccer standouts as well. Pressbox is available for free at over 500 locations throughout the region, including 60 Royal Farm stores. Or you can read the entire issue at PressBoxOnline.com, where you can also find great betting advice and the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps.
Need a trophy or award that's as unique as the achievement? Look no further than Crown Trophy. With locations in Owings Mills and Gaithersburg, they specialize in custom trophies, plaques, and medals for any occasion. From sports and academic awards to employee recognition and corporate gifts, visit crowntrophy.com today and let them help you create a lasting memory for your school, team, or business. Crown Trophy is a proud supporter of the Maryland Public Secondary Schools Athletic Association. crowntrophy.com.
One of the things that's definitely wrong with this country is that this dude still has a job somehow, some way. Glenn Clark.
Griffin really wants me to tell you guys that Colton Cowser is a Gold Glove finalist for the Orioles, and he really wants me to say that Ryan Mountcastle is a Gold Glove finalist for the Orioles. So now I've said those things. You have no idea. You have no clue. You have not watched the others closely.
I think Mountcastle should.
I think Ryan Mountcastle in particular had an outstanding when he was healthy. Had an outstanding defensive season. I could not pretend to have watched the other guys enough or to have enough about the data to know definitively.
Well,
but
Verdugo was not good. We know that.
Do
Maybe
we
Stephen Kwan.
Do we know that?
I mean, he couldn't catch that ball. That
I
Jake
understand.
Mullins hit
I
over.
understand that. Like I remember
enough
that. Oh, you think just the one is enough?
Yeah.
All right, fair enough.
How bad were the left fielders this year if Alex Verdugo's a finalist?
Okay, you're basing that off of one thing that you saw.
think
You
Alex
did not.
Verdugo's
I
a
have
good
no
left
idea. I didn't watch enough to have that. This is the thing that I had to learn at some point in my life because I used to do these bits where I was like, I'll tell you who's the best of that group. I have no idea. I did not watch the Yankees.
I can
didn't.
confidently say Verdugo is not going to win the
I
Gold
don't
Glove.
think he should based on what I saw, but maybe when I wasn't watching, he was really good. I don't know that. Like, this is one of those things where I'm confident enough to be able to say, I don't know. I don't think so, but I don't know. There was a bunch of Orioles news that's kind of been under the radar because it's, season's over. We're not paying attention. We now know that both hitting coaches are definitively gone, and that was going to have to be the case when the Orioles decided that they were going to keep Brandon Hyde around. If you're going to keep – there has to be – you have to acknowledge something went wrong. You have to. You can't gaslight your way through and pretend like everything's fine. Now, as I said, if you had done it with Brandon Hyde, would it be definitive proof that it was Brandon Hyde's fault? Nope. And do I know that it's the fault of the two hitting coaches? Nope. Do I know that it was a problem that you had two hitting coaches? Nope. I have no idea. What I know is when something goes as south as it did for the Orioles this season, you can't the answer can't just be, that was weird. Let's hope it's better next year. That can't be the case. So this was going to have to happen. What they end up doing, no idea. I saw a couple of people in Orioles Twitter world openly campaigning for Ryan Flaherty to be the guy, and like, God love Ryan Flaherty. Who's calling me? I don't know who that is. God love, it's a local number, but I don't know who it is. God love Ryan Flaherty, but like, Ryan Flaherty, the hitting coach? Remember, Ryan Flaherty wasn't really much of a hitter.
He had a few. Did he hit one to Utah Street? I thought he did.
Maybe, I don't remember. Here's what I know, and maybe he's a really good hitting. You don't have to have been a great hitter in order to be a good hitting coach, right? Like, there's no.
Sometimes you just suck at hitting.
Right, but I don't know that that's the. I don't know what the answer is. I don't think that's the answer. I think that's just guy that we've heard of, so we like him.
Get him in the building.
But yes, the Orioles will have at least one new hitting coach. If they go with one or if they go with two moving forward, we will find out. But neither of the hitting maybe that's the answer. It's just more hitting coaches. Yeah. Just keep adding. Maybe you have 10. 10.
Each
It's
player
like
gets their
the
own.
booth in The Naked Gun. You look up and it's Dick Vitale and Jim Palmer and Dr. Joyce Brothers and the whole. You just keep adding more and more to see how many you need. So, like, that's not surprising to me. That had to happen. The other thing that I saw this morning that I guess was a little surprising. Remember when the ownership transition was made, the Orioles were keeping John Angelos on as an advisor. That's no longer the case. John Angelos is now completely out of the organization. And I don't know if that was always part of the plan. Like, it was part of the deal when they were making the transition. Like, hey, as long as your family still has an ownership stake, then we will have a role for you. And as soon as we finish off the buy, you're out. Or if something changed, I don't have that answer. But reported this morning by Matt Weyrich of the Baltimore Sun, John Angelos out as a senior advisor for the Baltimore Orioles. So I don't know if that was always part of the plan or if that changed during the last few months, last few weeks, but John Angelos no longer has a role with the Orioles. So the Angelos family is now completely separated from the Baltimore Orioles as of, I guess, today or this week. So that's what's going on. A couple of Orioles-related notes that were worth passing along.
You want to get a center fielders nominated over Cedric Mullins?
Sure.
Dalton Varsho.
Okay.
Jake Myers.
Okay.
And Jaron Duran.
Okay. Do you have a take? Do you have
I mean, probably over Varsho, I would think. But
I don't know. I don't know. I can't. I'm just not going to do the bit where I pretend. I don't know. Hey, speaking of baseball, Stan the Fan Charles, Ross Grimsley, Luke Jackson got together yesterday talking about the playoffs, talking about some Orioles topics. You can find that right now, Facebook.com/PressBoxSports, YouTube.com/PressBoxOnline, or PressBoxOnline.com/video. Stan, Ross, and Luke talking baseball every Monday all year long. We had to do this a little bit earlier, and again, we had to do it before the Davante Adams trade was reported. So it comes up in this conversation. We now know it's not an option for the Baltimore Ravens, but it is an option for us to catch up with the former NFL head coach. Now he's with Underdog Fantasy Football. We spent a little bit of time chatting with Jay Gruden here on GCR.
Oh, thanks for having me. Always a pleasure to talk some ball.
Hey, Coach, I know before we get to the Ravens, I know there's a lot of excitement in D.C., and I think everybody up here feels the exact same way. Like, that kid's unbelievable. I mean, he is a really, really good football player, Jaden Daniels. I think the difference on Sunday seemed to be that, like, the Ravens as a franchise, some of the other pieces they have, they're a little bit better. Lamar's still probably a couple steps ahead. But I don't think there's any disputing what Jaden Daniels is capable of being already in the NFL and what he might be in the years to come.
I have no question about it. I think I said after 5 games, he's in the conversation not only for rookie year, but for MVP for what he's done with that franchise and turning that around in such a short amount of time. Nobody would have thought they'd be 4-1 going into Baltimore. That's for sure. So he's got the team on his back. They're doing a lot of good things right, too. The running game's been solid, not against Baltimore. Baltimore shut it down pretty good. But for the most part, it's been a total team effort led by a rookie quarterback, and he's using a lot of different weapons and playing extremely well.
That said, Lamar Jackson is Lamar Jackson, and this Ravens offense, this combination of Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, can you even imagine having to scheme up ways to figure out a way to stop this at this point?
I like watching defenses try to stop them. And obviously Dan Quinn's idea was let's play a lot of single high safety and try to load the box to stop the run. And that's understandable. So Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson's impact not only in the running game, but in the passing game is huge. And they're getting great looks. They're getting single high, outside leverage, and obviously they're calling good plays to run away from that, and Lamar's putting it on them when he has to. So, yeah, they're averaging almost 200 yards a game rushing, and Lamar's putting the ball on the money. So, yeah, they're a tough team to stop for sure.
So what do you do, right? Like, if you're an opposing, what in the world do you do other than just, like, sort of pray that you can outscore them?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think the one thing, I think Dan Quinn, his idea was, we'll play single safety and let Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman and the receivers try to beat our corners, and they ended up doing that. As they had 9 for 132, so that didn't work out too well. Bateman had 4 for 71, so it's tough. It's like pick your poison. You want to die a slow death and let Derrick Henry have 7-8 yards of pop and Lamar keep his zone read for another 20 yards, 30 yards here and there, or do you want to, put it on Lamar's shoulders to throw the ball? But right now their balance is extraordinary. Their offensive line's coming together, and just a fun thing to watch.
He is Jay Gruden. He's with us here on GCR. Jay, short of, and look, injury is the great equalizer in the NFL, right? And we all acknowledge that. Like, everything could change within 2 weeks. But if the principles, if Lamar, if Derrick Henry, if, at least a few of the pass catchers stay healthy, do you feel like this is a Ravens offense that is growing to the point where they can finally overcome the Kansas City Chiefs, keep Patrick Mahomes off the field, dictate pace, make them play the way that they're supposed to, and they were supposed to in the AFC Championship game last year?
I think there's no question about it. The way they're playing right now and the way they look, and having Derrick Henry to close out games is different. I mean, he's the ultimate closer. He's Mariano Rivera coming off the bench for the Yankees. I mean, if they have a lead into the fourth quarter, it's a wrap. And, so I don't think there's any doubt that they'll have the ability, staying healthy, to compete with anybody on their schedule.
Is there, I think in Baltimore there are concerns about the defense. This is not what we're used to in Baltimore, as you'd imagine. Like, this is, an organization that's been built on the history of their defense. Is this, hey, you've paid a lot of really good quarterbacks so far, or would you be concerned legitimately about a pass defense that is at best middle of the road and probably really worse than that?
Yeah, I'd be concerned a little bit. I think that's the weakness of the football team right now, is defensively. I think the front's playing pretty good. They're still stop and run. They're holding teams under 60 yards a game rushing. But it's the pass defense and the pass rush. They just got to get it going. They got to get a better pass rush so they don't, leave these corners out there too much. And they just got to play better. But when you talk about Ravens, the last thing you ever thought you'd talk about is their defense, because they've been so good for so long. But right now, you're right, it is a little bit of a little bit of hole in their team right now.
Is it something that's worth, Jay, I know this is always difficult. I want to present an argument to you, because it was, the conversation was being had about the Ravens maybe being involved in Davante Adams trade talks. And I heard a lot of, well, you don't want to rock the boat, right? Things are working. I wonder, as someone who's been in this position before, what you make of that argument that for a head coach, for an organization, that adding good football players could be like rocking the boat when something's working.
It could be, depending on, what you're going to use them for. Is that really the piece that you need? I'd rather go out and get a corner, top-notch corner, or something like that, or a pass rusher. Maybe go check on Hassan Reddick or somebody like that, just to add to the defense. But, you're right, you can never go wrong adding good players, but there is something to maybe rocking about, because this is a run-first football team, and all the receivers got to block. Dave's probably not a great blocker, but Rashad Bateman's a good blocker, and Aguilar will stick his head in there. And those guys, that's an important part of their success running the football, the receivers that are tough and they can block defensive ends and block linebackers and block corners and safeties.
And obviously it's part of the reason why they use the tight ends as much as they do. But I think you sort of prefaced on the other side of the ball, it does feel like there's an element of, and it's not as if the Ravens haven't been aggressive in the past. They did this with Roquan Smith a couple of years ago, but it sort of feels internally like, hey, this year kind of matters, right? Like, you don't know. Maybe Derrick Henry really can play till he's 40, right? Like, maybe he is that much of an alien that this can keep going for a long time. But you've got Derrick Henry. He's in a groove. You've been through a lot of playoff letdowns in recent years. It sort of feels like this year should matter to the point where perhaps the Ravens should be a bit more aggressive in season about what they look to do to try to upgrade.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not in there. I don't know the makeup of this football team from a culture standpoint. Maybe they feel really good. They've won 4 in a row. They beat Dallas. They beat Buffalo 35-10. They beat Cincinnati. Now they just beat a 4-1 Washington team. So they got to feel pretty good right now. And to your point about rocking the boat, maybe that's what they don't want to do right now. And sometimes you're playing so good, and then you come into the locker room and here's a new guy with the locker. You're like, what was he doing? We're doing just fine without him. We don't need him right now. So there's an element of that, but. If you really feel like as a head coach there's somebody that can help your football team maybe get to the next level, then you got to try to do it.
I want to ask you about something esoterically. The Ravens last week brought back Dean Pease, their former defensive coordinator, in an advisor role for first-year defensive coordinator Zach Orr, and the thought is, look, apparently Dean has continued to be a mentor for Zach since his playing career, and Zach was talking to him anyway. Do these things work? It's sort of a similar conversation, right? Somebody would say, do there end up being too many cooks in the kitchen? Can there be any negative that comes from having someone with experience just be there to help and understand they're not here to call the plays?
I don't think it's I think it's all good having Dean come back. He's an excellent coordinator and called a lot of plays and a lot of big games. And he's done a great job in his tenure as defensive coordinator for a couple different teams. So I think it'll help Zach a lot. And obviously they have a great relationship, and I know Dean will know his role and Zach knows his role, and anything to get the team better and a couple more ideas, maybe in the red zone, maybe on third down, maybe a couple of different blitzes and schemes, it can only help.
That's the way that I felt about it. I can't imagine it being a negative. It just seems like it's a good thing. Just another couple of minutes here with Jay Gruden. Of course, former NFL head coach and now obviously with Underdog Fantasy Football. Coach, I wanted to get your perspective as well. We talk about the defense's struggles, but is it possible that in the NFL at this point, you don't need to have a Baltimore Ravens-esque defense, that if you have that offense that you have and your defense is Derrick Henry and keeping quarterbacks off the field, it's okay if your defense isn't maybe what we're used to with this organization. You can still win a Super Bowl that way.
Well, a lot of teams don't have the luxury of having a top-notch offense and a top-notch defense.
Right.
Maybe Kansas City can argue that with Spagnuolo and the way he calls plays at Kansas City, and then having Mahomes on the other side. They're probably the closest thing to it. Minnesota actually is playing pretty good offense right now and an unbelievable defense. So it's not impossible, but sometimes you have to, give a little bit in some areas of your football, whether it's linebacking core, as a secondary, or the safeties, whatever it might be. And you just got to make sure you cover for them and do a good job of protecting those type of players, the weakness in your team, until you address them in the draft or via trade. So, but to have such a superstar offensive group with Lamar and Derek and obviously Zay Flowers and Ronnie Stanley and the rest of the guys, Linderbaum, they're going to make up for any woes that they might have on defense right now.
All right. I feel like there have been 6 teams at this point in the NFL that have kind of separated themselves from everyone else. Kansas City, Minnesota, Baltimore, Houston, Detroit, Green Bay, whatever order that you want to put them in. It feels like those 6 teams at the moment, and we acknowledge it's only 6 weeks in, this is what it is. But, Coach, is there a team besides that group of teams that you have your eyes on and you say, yeah, but I think this team legitimately could still figure things out and make a run towards a Super Bowl?
Tampa Bay is interesting to me, just the way they can put up points right now. You mentioned Detroit. I think the whole NFC North is interesting to me. I mean, you look at Minnesota, Detroit, Green Bay, and Chicago's 4-2. You just don't. I mean, with a rookie quarterback, they have a really good defense as well. Green Bay, Jordan Love coming back from the injury and the receivers that he has, and obviously Josh Jacobs, and they're playing decent defense. And so, yeah, I'd say Green Bay is another one.
All right, and then I'll leave you with this. There's been some debate, right? Like right now, and I get that there could be an MVP from another team, but there's been this sort of talk in Baltimore that maybe Derrick Henry could detract from Lamar Jackson and the ability to win another MVP award. If you had to pick between one of those two, who's the most valuable, Raven? Is it Derrick Henry or is it Lamar Jackson?
I'm going Lamar every day of the week, my friend.
Yeah.
Lamar is the guy that keeps everything going, man, and his ability to run the ball still and the way he's spinning it in the passing game, Lamar is the man.
All right, Jay Gruden, what does everybody need to know about what it is that you're doing with Underdog?
Oh, I just got a YouTube channel called Clean Pocket. You can log in, and me and Colt McCoy, AQ Shipley, and Justin Pugh, we do a show every week. It's pretty fun, and that's about it. Underdog Fantasy.
AQ's our guy. We love that dude. Obviously a former Baltimore Raven. Great guy. Coach Jay Gruden, you can also follow him on Twitter. It's @Coach_Jay Gruden. Coach, really appreciate you, man. Thank you for spending a few minutes with us. We really enjoyed the conversation.
You got it. Thanks a lot.
Jay Gruden with us here on GCR. And again, wide receiver Davante Adams wasn't his priority anyway. He says he'd be looking for a corner or, again, poking in on Hassan Reddick, who was given permission to seek a trade earlier today. So, interesting to see if that's what the Ravens have in mind moving forward. I haven't brought up this video that everybody's talking about of this Ravens fan. There's a couple of reasons. The first being I don't really feel like giving this any more air. I don't think it has anything to do with sports. I think there's a lot of people that are just S people. And I think that, like, we do this thing sometimes where, like, the fan of a football team will say, yeah, we lost, but this is the real story. Like, we try to distract from what we talk about. If there was a Ravens fan that was walking around trying to beat up Commanders fans, and by the way, in poking around, I think the story is more complicated than that, but I don't think this is a good person. I think this is a person that probably deserves to be in jail. If that's the case, that's awful. If a Commanders fan is committing a crime, then that person should be in jail. If someone who's never watched a football game at all, it just has nothing to do with sport. Like, trying to tie it in somehow to, like, this is a reflection of the Baltimore. It has nothing to do with that. There are S people everywhere. This video of this person appears to be an S person. A couple people reached out to me and were like, hey, there's more to this story, and there were Commanders fans that were, causing, they're only presenting. I don't care. I don't. Because this has nothing to do with the Commanders and the Ravens at all. In any way. Someone was out in town trying to start fights. And if that's something that you were doing, no matter who you are, no matter what you're into, you should be prosecuted. You don't have anything to fall back on. Like, you don't get to say, well, yeah, but it was a rivalry between football. No. Not in any world. And it's not a sports topic. It's not none of that. It's not unique. It's not, this is an example of hooliganism. No, people get into fights at bars on the weekend. That happens. It has nothing to do with sports. This guy happened to be wearing a Ravens jersey, and the video makes it seem like he's purposely trying. There's way more, and the police will investigate that. This human being should be arrested. But we try to take something and broaden it and make it a story of, and this is our internet weirdoism. Like, the internet has made us all giant weirdos. And somehow, this is about the Commanders or the Ravens. It has nothing to do with that at all, even a little bit. It's not a win for by the way, some of you are showing your weirdoism in the way that you're obsessed with this. We are weirdos, man. And if you're filming this type of stuff to put it on the internet instead of to, like, give it to the police, I don't know enough to know if that is also a crime, but it sure as hell feels like it should be. If you are filming what you know is criminal behavior for the sake of putting it on the internet, I believe there were stories about, like, maybe in certain places this has been, the laws have been written to make this a crime. But this happens all the time, where people do this type of thing, where they film something that they know is criminal, but they do it with the intent of distributing on the internet, where there are victims involved. People who may or may not have ever signed up for being, like, again, it's one thing if, I guess, they were active in this fight, but it might also be that this dude was just going after people randomly. And if that's the case, and that's what it looked like, if that's the case, then there are victims involved with this. And you just put those victims on the internet for your edification. Again, if that's not criminal in the state of Maryland yet, it sure as F should be. We have created a culture that is separated from reality. You witness a crime, and instead of saying, I need to give this to the police, your thought is, boy, I bet this will do numbers on the internet. Yo, we're lost. Like, we're lost. We're losing recipes. There is a disconnect. The children are being left behind. But it ain't about the Ravens and the Commanders. It's about a culture problem. And bar fights and people acting like tough guys and all that, it's not unique to this generation. That's existed for forever. And when it happens, it should be prosecuted. But additionally, anybody who's filming it for the point of putting it on the internet, you should be prosecuted too. Because this has to end. We got to get out of the business of thinking that this is content. No, this is criminal. That's what's occurring. So there's my 2 cents on that. There's really nowhere to go from there, so I'll do a little jig.
Don't do it again.
What? Who? The guy or me?
Everyone, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I would agree. I mean, I mean that. Like, I don't want this to be to seem dismissive or like, no, it's all awful, every ounce of it. But it has nothing to do with what jersey someone was wearing. Any human being that's out trying to attack people in the streets for any reason should be in jail. Period. I don't care what jersey they're wearing. I don't care what team they root for. I don't care if they're into rock or classical music. This is, for a lot of people yesterday that were Commanders fans, this was winning replacement. We lost the football game, so we want to feel like we're winning by getting after this guy. You haven't won anything. Everyone should be in agreement that this is unacceptable behavior. But to be clear, if there were Commanders fans also doing this types of stuff, they should be prosecuted as well. It has nothing to do with the teams. They're irrelevant. The behavior is the issue. And the behavior of posting this stuff on the internet, because that's where that we live, anything could be numbers. If I post it, I'll do numbers. I'll get attention. When you know that what you're seeing is a crime, we've got to get a place where we understand that's going to have to be a crime too. You're going to have culpability if you're witnessing and you're sharing to try to get attention, to try to profit off of a crime that has been committed. It's like somebody who wants to believe that they can just drive a stolen car. Like, well, I didn't steal it. Right, you're driving a stolen car, and you know that's a crime. You don't get to say, well, I wasn't the one that stole it. You know that what you're watching is a crime. You know that. There's no hiding from, oh, was that criminal? A guy walking around punching people in the head? Was that? I didn't know that. There's no hiding behind it. You know what you're watching was a crime. So trying to profit off of it must also be a crime. And I know it's a topic that has come up. I'm not a law expert, believe it or not. I know that seems weird for me because you look at me and you're like, dude, if there's one thing that Glenn Clark knows, it's the intricacy of law. I'm not a law expert, but I do know that this is a conversation that's come up when we've seen like the videos of like the knockout game that has been discussed. And I think that in some states it's already become a crime, but it needs to be in all states. It needs to be everywhere. You don't get to video a crime occurring and share it on the internet to try to get profit. That cannot be legal. We have to, if it is, we have to end that immediately. Might be something that if like you were running for public office, perhaps you should put out there. You want to video it? No problem. You know where it goes? The police. You don't get the profit off of someone else committing a crime. Not the way it works. All right. We'll get a tidbit. We'll get tubular. I do need to tell everybody that today's show, this is the final. This is it. Today is the last day. If you didn't get the Kyle Hamilton print issue of Press Box, go get it now. Because it's going to be gone. Gone starting tomorrow. It's already gone in a lot of locations, so if you do wander over to your neighborhood Royal Farms and it's not there, you can always read it at PressBoxOnline.com. Coming tomorrow, new print issue of PressBox hits newsstands. On the cover, Derek Queen. I just saw, I think ESPN in their mock draft has him in the first round next year. Not here for likely not here for a long time. Hopefully here for a good time. Derek Queen and Julian Reese, the Baltimore-built duo, on the cover. Two Baltimore kids trying to bring Maryland basketball back to prominence somehow, some way. Good story from Brooks DeBose, so encourage you to go pick that up starting tomorrow at your neighborhood Royal Farms. Before we do tidbit, try to think of what the sports questions were at trivia last night. It was a rough night. Another movie question for the final, and our movie guy failed.
What was the movie question?
What was the first ever animated feature film for DreamWorks?
Shrek?
It was not. That was our first guess. The hint was there are four previous Academy Award winners were in the voice cast of the film.
For previous Academy.
Previous Academy Award winners. The Shrek doesn't even have four,
like,
like that. Immediately, everybody said Shrek, and I was like, now tell me who the 4 Academy Award winners. Mike Myers ain't won an Academy Award.
Should have.
For what? Austin
Shrek?
Powers?
They
don't do voice acting awards.
They should.
Okay.
It's something stupid like ants or something.
Are you gonna guess something, or are you gonna like
I'm
when
trying to
you
think of
say
what came-
things like that, you're
I'm trying to
just
think of what came before.
I don't know what you're
Shrek.
looking at.
I can't think of any DreamWorks.
We
movie
did
that
not
came
guess
before
Shrek for what it's worth, but we still got it wrong.
Ants.
Ants is the correct answer.
Is it really?
Yes.
Sorry, I wasn't there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, your confidence. I don't think you would have won out in the conversation.
What would you guys guess?
Prince of Egypt, I think is
I
what
don't
he
know.
guessed.
I would have walked out if you guys guessed that.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that would have been your moment. You would have said, "I can't.
We're guessing
I
Prince of-
cannot put up with this." Apparently, Prince of Egypt came out like 3 months after.
Ugh. When did Ants? So Ants came out. Oh, it came out after Ants.
Prince of Egypt came out in December of '98. Apparently, Ants came out earlier in 1998. The Prince of Egypt cast, and I don't know how many of these people have won. Helen Mirren, for example, is in the cast. So Helen Mirren, had she won an Academy Award at the time, I assume she's definitely won Academy Awards since then. But admittedly, I don't know, right? Like, I don't know. Helen Mirren was in the cast. Sandra Bullock was in the cast. I don't think she had won an Academy Award at the time. She has since won Academy Awards. Ray Fiennes, who I believe had one at the time. Like, it was a logical answer that he came up with.
Yeah.
But it was incorrect. It was incorrect. Ants was the correct answer for what that movie was. The sports questions were there was an October round, and it was like 3 different questions about October, and miraculously we got all 3. The first was like, what's the birthstone for October? And we all looked around like, any of us born in October? Nope. But my cousin came up with Opal, which was remarkable. It
is Opal?
It is Opal.
Wow.
And he didn't even
know
really.
what my birthstone is. I don't think.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a little. That's a bit much.
Why do I need to know what
It's
my
just something that
birthstone
people know. Like, you figure it when you're a kid in like school, they make you find out everything about your birth month, like what sign
That's
you
all
are.
I need to know.
September is Sapphire.
Okay.
I do know
June,
that.
what do you think
Now I'm
June
starting to
is?
wonder if it's an alliteration bit. Like, do they find?
So June is.
I have no idea.
Juniper?
I have no idea. I don't believe juniper is a stone. June birthstone is. Oh, June is one of only 2 months that have 3 birthstones.
Oh my God! See, this is why.
Pearl, Alexandrite, and Moonstone. How about that?
Ah, yes, Moonstone.
How about that? I had never heard that. I didn't know that was a thing. I had
3
no idea.
birthstones?
Then one of the questions was, in what American city will you find the the International Balloon Festival in October?
What American city?
I don't know how we pulled this out of our.
International.
Everybody said
Balloon
Phoenix, and I was like, I lived in Phoenix. There was no International Balloon Festival in
it's
Phoenix.
Phoenix?
It's definitely not Phoenix.
Chicago.
It's not Chicago.
It's Minneapolis.
They were all so convinced.
Fargo.
Yeah, thank you. They were all so convinced that they have seen pictures of it, and they were like, it looks like a desert. So we went with Albuquerque. Albuquerque is the correct answer, believe it or not.
What?
Albuquerque. When I
So
told
they
them
got Opal and
when I
Albuquerque.
said it's not Phoenix, I live there, I would know if there was an International Balloon Festival. Like, it didn't happen. And so they were like, all right, well, it's somewhere in the Southwest, so we'll go with Albuquerque. And we got it. It was Albuquerque. And then number 3 was the sports one, and this one was the obvious one. What baseball player is known as Mr. October?
Reggie Jackson.
That is correct. That one was obvious. The other one, I only got 3 out of 4 on. This one was much more difficult. The question is, what 4 MLB teams have had at least 10 100-win seasons?
Okay. 10 100-win seasons.
Yes.
1,000 winners. Let's go with 10 100. All right, so it's got to be the Dodgers. Got to be the Yankees. Got to be. I feel like the Red Sox didn't win 100 games very often, if ever, honestly. 110 100-win seasons.
It's one of those things where Griffin says something and he wants me to just tell him that you got to come up with 4 answers.
Am I allowed to not? So you don't want me to think out loud?
You can talk it through, but I'm going to poker face you the entire time. Poker face, poker face. Poker face, poker. Oh, you went and saw it?
Yeah, we talked about
Oh, we
this.
did. Yeah, we did. We did. So we talked about it.
Just think about Lady Gaga.
I still need a date for Saturday night. Not for this Saturday. Oh, maybe it could be Saturday night. But I want to go see Saturday night. So I need someone to step up and be my date to go see Saturday night with me. Mrs. Clark, not interested.
Why?
She's mildly interested. She thinks it could, but not enough to go to the movie theater. It takes more than that to get Mrs. Clark to the movie theater.
Something like Ants, probably.
Yeah, Ants. That would get Mrs. Clark. Shame you weren't there.
All right, I'll go with Dodgers and Yankees.
Okay.
And
poker face. I don't know any of the other lyrics. Oh, 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 oh. Oh yeah. No, you can't read my poker face. I don't even know what the lyrics are there.
I don't know what it is either. Just mumble all
yeah,
the way
right.
Why can't I think of any other? Okay, so
no, you can probably think of other baseball teams.
Yeah.
I bet
all
you could
right,
name another baseball team.
The Phillies.
Okay. So Yankees, Dodgers, Phillies, and
100 win.
Yeah.
The Orioles have done it a few times. Have they done it 10 times? I don't think so.
Okay.
I would probably just old teams. Let's go with both the Chicago teams are not good.
Well, they've been good.
Yeah. All right, I'll go Cubs.
Cubs. That's your.
No.
For God's sakes, with you.
I'm gonna take out Cubs. Put.
For God's sakes, and
no. Yeah. Cubs. We'll stick with
Cubs.
We'll stick with Cubs.
You went 2 for 4. Damn it. So you did worse than I did.
So with the Yankees and Dodgers.
Yankees and Dodgers definitively. They are in, yes. The other 2 incorrect. The third one that we got,
the
Braves. We got the Braves. In the 90s, they won 100 games every year.
I wasn't born in the 90s.
Yeah.
Would have known it, probably.
So we went with the Braves. The fourth team that we were between a bunch of teams.
Tigers.
Not the Tigers.
Twins.
Not the Twins.
Cleveland.
Not Cleveland. This is going well.
No AL Central team?
Did you name all the AL Central teams?
I mean, the Royals. So
no, not the Royals.
Yeah, not going to be the Royals.
Yep.
I was going to guess them. That'd be a stupid
guess.
guess.
Yeah, right. That'd be a dumb guess. Don't guess the Royals.
So the White Sox.
Definitely not the White Sox.
Yeah, see?
Yeah.
I knew it was a dumb guess.
Mm-hmm. Just keep guessing. There's only 30, so you're going to get there eventually.
No, the Mariners haven't been around very often. Very long.
I think they've been around often. I think they just keep popping up.
Not Houston.
Not Houston.
So the Red Sox.
Not the Red Sox.
Do it.
That was one of our thoughts, but not the team we went with.
Not the. The Giants.
Not the Giants. That was our guess.
Just you say just Giants, I guess.
Yeah.
Because did they take the New York Giants? Okay.
Yes. The Dodgers counted the Brooklyn Dodgers.
The A's.
The A's were the answer. We were between the Giants, Cardinals, and Athletics were the 3 teams that we were between, and we went with the Giants. And that was incorrect. It was the A's. That was the correct answer.
Why are you even there?
I know, right? The hell. At least I wasn't the movie guy that got the movie final wrong. Let's get a tidbit, shall we?
Have you ever thought of taking a cruise to these wonderful destinations with sunny skies and beautiful beaches? Well, wait no longer. We're ready for you to cruise from the Cruise Maryland Terminal.
Have a little phrase that you can go from baggage to margarita in about 15 minutes.
Choose fun with an array of destinations, onboard activities, entertainment, and world-class cuisine.
Contact your travel agent and book your cruise today. Let your adventure begin.
All right, what you got?
I have some stats, I think. I thought there was one from last night. Okay, so Aaron Rodgers has the second most touchdowns now as time expires in the first or second half since 1970.
Yeah, it's 4, and nobody has more than 2.
I
saw that going around last night.
Then that's probably true. There is one person that does have more than 4.
Oh, all time?
Yeah, so Rodgers is second with 4 touchdowns as time expires on the half.
Oh, okay. That stat I saw was like 4 with 40 or more yards.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Like legitimate Hail Marys, not just touchdowns. Okay, Tom Brady?
Not Tom Brady.
Peyton Manning.
Not Peyton Manning.
Ben Roethlisberger.
Not Ben
Phil Rivers. Matt Ryan. Troy Aikman. Joe Montana. Steve Young. Dan Fouts. Matt Ryan, I think I already said. Joe Flacco. Dan Marino.
Dan Marino.
Stop me when I say it.
5 touchdowns, Dan Marino, as halves expire. So Rodgers right behind him. Good company, right?
Sure, I guess.
It's a skill.
I guess.
Let's do. Okay, so Derrick Henry became the first player to rush for a touchdown in each of his first 6 games of a season since 2005.
Sean Alexander.
Not Sean Alexander.
So confident it was going to be Sean Alexander. LaDainian Tomlinson.
LaDainian Tomlinson, LT in 2005, rushing touchdown in each of his first 6 games. So with Northwestern upsetting Maryland on Friday,
let's ease up on upset. Like
they were 11-point underdogs.
I understand that, but it's not like Maryland was ranked or something like that.
They were substantial underdogs. They become the 4th school to have 4 outright wins as double-digit underdogs in the last 3 seasons. So since 2022.
That's random.
Can you name the other 3?
No,
they
not a
each
chance
have an
in
upset
hell.
This season.
They each have an upset this season.
So Northwestern.
Vanderbilt
with 3 this season has 5.
Did they beat Kentucky on?
Yeah.
Wow.
They beat Kentucky.
Wow.
Vanderbilt's
break them up.
They're going for the playoff.
Break them up.
Vandy, Northwestern.
Other teams that have won as big dogs this season. Minnesota.
Not Minnesota.
How about Washington?
Not Washington. Why? Which one were you thinking?
Michigan.
They were weren't they? They were 2.5-point favorites.
Wait, were they?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Wasn't paying attention. Arkansas.
Not Arkansas.
How about Northern Illinois?
Not Northern Illinois. They both upset the same team.
They both upset the same. How much of an upset was it really?
Well, that's a good question. That is a fair question, but according to the odds makers, it wasn't.
Florida State.
They both upset Florida State.
So Georgia Tech and Boston College.
And Boston College, yes. Those are the 4 schools: BC, Georgia Tech, Vandy, and Northwestern, each with 4 double-digit underdog outright wins.
How about that?
Yeah,
we can call it. We can call it. Hey, the next Arthur Millette show, not tomorrow night. I have a bunch of people ask me if it was tonight. Not tonight, and not tomorrow night. Not next Tuesday.
Why not do it every week?
We'd love to. Next Wednesday night, October 23rd, we will be at the Gourmet inside the shops at Kenilworth, a stone's throw from here. Come hang out with Arthur, myself, Rita, his special guest, 1 week from tomorrow night, 8 days from now, October 23rd, at the Gourmet inside the shops at Kenilworth. For more, go to PressBoxOnline.com/Millette. Let's get tubular.
Experience the thrill of the Mars Maryland 5-Star at Fair Hill, presented by Brown Advisory, coming October 17th to 20th. See the world's best equestrians compete in the sport of eventing, the ultimate test of horse and rider. Enjoy a weekend festival featuring local food, shopping, and fun for all. Come for the event and stay for the experience in Cecil County, home to the Chesapeake Bay waterfront, vibrant small towns, and family entertainment. Tickets on sale now at maryland5star.us.
All right, here's what's coming up totally tubular this evening. A couple of local college soccer teams in action. Maryland is hosting George Mason at 7 on Big Ten Network Plus. Both of those teams in the top 15. Who knew? George Mason, a top 15 team in the country. That's at 7. Loyola's at Syracuse tonight at 7 as well on ESPN+. TBS for Game 2 of the ALCS, 7:37 for the Guardians and Yankees. Tanner Bybee, Garrett Cole, the pitching matchup for that one. A friendly tonight between the U.S. and Mexico, 10:30 on TNT. The Capitals play the Golden Knights at 7 on Monumental. Panthers, Blue Jackets, 7 on NHL Network. ESPN has Wild Blues at 7:30. Flyers, Oilers at 10. College football, ESPN2 for Troy, South Alabama at 7:30. CBS Sports Network, Kennesaw State, Middle Tennessee at 8. And ESPNU, Louisiana Tech, New Mexico State at 9. NBA TV, preseason hoops, Spurs Heat at 7:30, Warriors Lakers at 10, and the CW for WWE NXT tonight at 8. Non-sports.
New episode of Only Murders. I'm trying to think if this is worth.
I waited so long to start watching our Only Murders that I forgot it was weekly. And so when I got caught up, I was furious. I'm like, play the next episode. What the hell's going on?
Peacock has a like a little docuseries called Anatomy of Lies. So this writer, or no, she was an executive producer, I think, of Grey's Anatomy, Elizabeth Finch, apparently like lied about a bunch of stuff about her like personal life.
Oh,
and
I was going to say,
like talking about that.
I honest to God thought you were about to say like about Grey. I was like, I don't think it's a documentary series.
No, yeah, it's about her and her like lying about her life and stuff. So apparently they thought,
is she interesting enough for people to care?
I think she had cancer.
Okay, yeah, that's
but I think like she actually had cancer.
Wait,
but then
what?
she like, lied about other stuff, and it was weird.
All right, maybe it's interesting.
The BET Hip Hop Awards, hosted by Fat Joe, are tonight.
Hell yeah,
BET.
Hell yeah.
New episode of Aaron Hernandez.
Lean back. Lean back. I just hope he does that all night. That's all the show is just Fat Joe doing lean back every time.
And then on HBO they have a like a two-parter. This could be a book club. I'm Not a Monster: The Lois Reese Murders, part 1 tonight.
We haven't been able to do book club in. No. Although I guess this week I think we're on at 6:00. Maybe we could do book club this week. Although nobody's watched anything. The hell is going on?
Lois Rice. I don't know how to say it. I think it's Reese. She had like a gambling debt or something owed to her husband, but like her husband didn't know about the money that she took from him, so she just ran away before he found out. And like she ended up like down in Florida, and she like befriended this lady that like kind of looked like her, and then she killed her so that she could take her identity.
Ooh, okay, all right.
And then apparently there's more because it is called the Lois Reese Murders.
I will. Yeah, it's true. I would watch that. That's what's that on?
HBO.
Okay.
And, so I think it'll be available on Max after 9 p.m. tonight.
All right. So. I think I would consume that product. I tried watching the first episode. I tried starting Industry over the weekend. I was bored to death.
Was there anything? Is Franchise worth anything? I don't think that one.
What is Franchise?
That was also on HBO, or is on HBO. I think it's like still going. It's and it's like they're like, it's a bad superhero movie. I think it's like it's like about the behind the scenes and stuff of them like filming it. And it's like not a good superhero movie or something, like a B-list superhero movie.
Okay, that's the concept.
And yeah, I didn't recognize any of the actors though. I mean, looked like
Industry. You want me to care too much about finance? Like I just don't care. So it's not enough of the.
Oh wait, Daniel Bruhl was in the Franchise.
I don't even know who that is.
Oh damn, I love Daniel Bruhl.
Who is it?
He was the guy. So he was the bad guy in Civil War, Captain America Civil War.
Okay.
He was in something else. He was in Inglourious Bastards.
Was he?
Yeah, I think he was like the German guy.
Sounds like something I would enjoy. Daniel Bruhl. I just don't recognize him. All right, very good. You'll find it all at glennclarkradio.com. Thanks today to Jay Gruden. Thanks also to Joe Serpico, as well as to James Palmer. All J's, triple J's today. Yeah, big J's over there. We'll get it all up in the greatest hits section of the
Here we go
tab at glennclarkradio.com. Tomorrow on the program, Drew will be here. Sorry. Devin McCourty will be here. We'll talk to him about he's calling Ravens-Bucks on Monday night for Westwood One. So we'll talk to him about Ravens-Bucks. You know him, of course, from Sunday Football Night in America on NBC. And Randy Cross will join us. We will talk about Navy and their red-hot start being the number 25 team in the country. And when who knows? They're back in action this week after the bye, and then, of course, in 2 weeks, the big Notre Dame game. So we'll talk to Randy Cross about that. That's all coming up on the program tomorrow. Thanks to everybody at PressBox, all of our great sponsors and partners, including the Maryland 5-Star Live Casino and Hotel, Cruise Maryland, Crown Trophy, Easy Pass, Royal Farms, Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbooks in Towson and Canton, HelpMyGamblingProblem.org, the Costas Inn, MSAA, the Baltimore Orioles, your local Toyota dealer, BioToyota.com. Thanks to Griffin at Griffin_Bass. Follow us, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Glenn Clark Radio. It's weird that John's just staring at us, right? Like, that's weird. That's unsettling. He's just standing in the doorway like a creep. Like, I don't know if he wants to say something or if he's... All right. Have a great Tuesday evening. Go not the Yankees. Go Maryland and Loyola Soccer. Duke sucks.